Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday, October 24th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on the Owen Report today. All right, we got a lot of economic news with President Trump set to head to Asia tonight ahead of a big trade negotiation with Xi Jinping and other countries in Asia. And it is not a coincidence that Trump decided to tip the first domino in this entire trade war earlier this week with Russia. I don't know what his end goal is as far as deciding to topple these dominoes ahead of the Asia trip, but there's no doubt the two things are connected. And you're already seeing the response from the global markets, from the other global leaders on trade, and even in the American markets, which yet again are popping today. I haven't checked the recent numbers, made a few trades this morning. Maybe you did too. I think it could close at some records today. But no doubt this is all connected to Trump heading to Asia to meet with Xi Jinping. So we'll cover that as well as some other economic news today. We do have some updates, the New York City mayor's race, and then some other elections that are coming up in Virginia and Maine. So we'll look at all that, as well as some other things Trump is talking about, not economic related, but some other things. And then some shutdown news. The government is still shut down, but it turns out nobody cares. I know. Turns out the polls are in. Nobody cares about the government shutdown. You know what they do care about, though? They care about that. They care about the fact that their grocery bills are higher than ever. They're kind of getting sick of that. But the government shutdown, not so much. Nobody's really tired of that. Letitia James was in court today. She's pled not guilty. Not guilty. But don't worry. Pam Bondi was back on Fox News last night. Hey, I got a question for you. How many times did Attorney General Merrick Garland appear on cable news or network news? How many TV interviews did Merrick Garland give when he was the Attorney General? I have the answer for you. What do you think that number is? Do you think Pam Bondi's going to beat it? Do you think maybe she already has? I don't know. Was anybody watching Barack Obama and Gavin Newsom live on YouTube this week? No. The answer is no. By the way, how's Michelle Obama's podcast doing? Not so good, huh? Hearing anything about that? Not hearing so much about that. We do have some geopolitical news today. Not too heavy. Not too heavy on the geopolitical front. Some cultural news stories. Some more economic news. You know, this theme of hate. We just really got to buck this thing. I'm seeing it again from the MAGA world, and it's mostly the MAGA cult world. But they seem very proud of how much they hate people now. Can't relate. Sorry. Can't relate to people that have hate in their heart. And it's a sickness. It's a disease. And it makes you the most easiest to control when you have hate in your heart. But I'm feeling nicey today. I'm feeling nicey on a Friday. I don't even know if I took a phone call all week. So I might just open phone lines up right out of the gates and just have a caller show from end to end with the news and some video clips. That's what I'm thinking about here on a Friday. Glad you're joining us whenever you're tuning in here on this Friday afternoon, early evening. We're going to have some fun today. Stay tuned.
This news update was brought to you by the 1776 Law Center. the official legal team of the Owen Report.
Ladies and gentlemen, your new home for political play-by-play, the Owen Report.
That's right. That's true. That's why you're here. The best political play-by-play available in the American media right here on the Owen Report. It's the best. Maybe we didn't have the best audio yesterday for a moment, but don't worry. Don't worry. I told you there's going to be some bumps and bruises as we're launching this month, but we're just pressure testing, stress testing stuff, and I do think I've isolated all the different issues that we've had. Then it just becomes a matter of correcting them. But I think we do have the correction today. But you notice it's getting less and less. Things are getting a lot more clean. And the format and the form here are starting to come into view. Okay. I really do want to take a bunch of calls today. And I haven't really done a caller-based show since we launched. There is a bunch of news. I do have a bunch of news on my desk that I want to get to. And maybe I should before we decide to open up the phone lines, so that you got a little something to chew on. But you got to say, I still believe President Trump's strongest ability, let's say, his best ability is on trade. And even though you'll see different people arguing that Trump's tariff policy is good, Trump's tariff policy is bad, Trump's trade negotiation style is too volatile. It's all fair critique, all fair criticism. But from my perspective, this is where I have the most confidence in Trump. And I think it's mostly because what we saw in the first term, what he was able to do with the economy. And there's no doubt before COVID hit that he had the economy humming as good as any of us have probably ever seen. Now, he made the fatal error of letting COVID crash the economy, and it did permanent damage. But I actually have more faith in Trump on this issue than I do anything else, because he's mostly in control of it. There's other variables, but I feel like he's mostly in control. Even with the things that we've seen this week, where it might appear he's out of control, that's part of his game. That's part of his strategy. So, and I notice, and it's kind of weird now, because I used to consume, really like 5 to 10 hours, just depending on the day, 5 to 10 hours of conservative media every day. And I'm down to like maybe 2 now, sometimes less, because it's just, there's nowhere to go in the conservative media. It's very few and far between where you can listen to conservative media and get anything out of it anymore. It's mostly just cheerleading. It's mostly just party line talking points. It's mostly just slop and fluff. There's entertainment. There's good entertainment out there from, let's say, right-wingers or conservatives that are entertaining, but nobody's really giving, there's no good news sources on the right anymore. And I'm trying to fill that void. I hope that we're filling it good here for you. That's what we're trying to do. But I find myself gravitating more and more to just straight up news sources. I even find myself gravitating more and more to leftist and liberal news sources just to get some sort of alternative view on things, because there's just no diversity in right-wing establishment conservative media anymore. There's just none. And some of the establishment legacy types that are just kind of built in, they're not willing to take the risks. They're not willing to take the risks, so they toe the party line and they do what they got to do to be safe. And I don't blame them for that. So what are you doing? I know not everybody consumes as much media, political media, news media as I do, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that is feeling this way. I can't be the only one that's noticed this. I used to be a fiend for conservative talk. I used to be a fiend. I'm telling you, 9-10 hours a day. And it's like, now it's not even, I can barely get 2 good hours of it. I'm lucky. You have to find it. There's a couple good ones out there, but it's not what it used to be. It's just slop and fluff and party line talking points. Everybody wants to toe the narrative. Nobody wants to take any risks. So cheers to the renegades. Cheers to the rogues. Because we are the future of media. And they're going to have their hay in the next 2 to 4 years with this administration. And there's some news out there. I don't know if I'm going to get to it today, but there's some news out there, which is the stuff I've been covering for a while. That's why I really appreciate the people that have been with me for a long time. And the one thing when you host a show like this, the one thing that you have to do, hold on a second here. Yeah, okay. The one thing that you have to do is you kind of have to just get over this. It's not like a TV show where you have this linear storyline and this linear timeline that you can follow along with. And it's like, oh, if I pick it up here, will I even understand the plot? When you're doing a talk radio show every day, you can't really operate like that. You have to assume that people are tuning in and just listening today. You can't assume that they've heard the things that you've said in the past, because it creates way too much. There's way too much air inventory invested in that. So you just have to move forward. But to the people that have been following me for a long time, it's funny when I see these stories like that are in the news today, or I had a big account reach out to me today and asked me if I planned on covering the new X algorithm or if I'd ever done any coverage of it. And I'm like, actually, I've been doing that for about a year. If you go back when they first did the payouts, I did big viral shows and viral reports on that. But it's like most people don't see that. But if you remember, we were covering how social media has become fully commercialized now, and there's basically just paid commercials, paid accounts, and that's all coming out. And I told you a lot of these individuals on social media are now they're just bought and paid for by the political money. And so now there's a couple of stories out there in the news today that highlight that confirm that. So we knew it. We had it first. And I'm proud of that, and I hope you're proud of that. I hope we're all proud of that, because we're a team here. But to those that don't remember that, or are new to the show, or don't listen all the time, maybe it's time you do. Maybe it's time you turn it into a habitual thing to be tuned in here. So, okay, let's get to the news. Enough ranting. Trump heads to Asia, aiming for trade deal with China. Could farmers lose a key customer? I don't think Trump is going to abandon the farmers. Again, this is the one area where I give Trump the benefit of the doubt. The peace deals, I think he only has so much control over. And even if President Trump has a genuine care and concern to accomplish peace, I think he has less control over that. And I think there's less, he has so much experience in the business world. He has so much experience in negotiating that he knows how to work these things over and get a favorable result, or the result he wants. He really can measure this stuff out. With the whole wars and peace negotiations and stuff, that's way more unpredictable. It's not like he has a lifetime of experience doing diplomatic negotiations like he does in business. So I have a lot less faith in those issues than I do the business stuff. I don't think Trump is going to abandon the farmers. And I see this happen a lot, where you'll have a stretch of time where it looks like Trump is going to do one thing that we don't like, and then he usually ends up fixing that or redeeming himself down the road. And I'm mostly talking about with trade and the economy here. Now, we shall see. There's good news. There's bad news today. But I don't anticipate Trump wants to abandon the farmers. I don't anticipate that it's going to end with the farmers getting screwed over. But I do think whatever it is he's up to this week ahead of this Asia trip and the negotiations with China, I think all of it has to do with that. I think everything he did this week to tip the dominoes and to start this trade war, I think it was all done intentionally before this trip to China. Now, if that's not the case, then we got a problem. And I know we don't like to talk about it, and there's no doubt that President Trump, for an 80-year-old man, is extremely impressive as far as his energy and his cognition is concerned. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, he is still 80. He is still 80. This is going to be a big measuring stick. How successful this trip to Asia is, and then what happens with trade and tariffs on the other side of it. This is going to be a big measuring stick. And if Trump comes out of this deal on top, then he's still got it. And we can remove all doubt on this issue. If he doesn't, then I think we might have cause for concern. But I do put more faith in Trump when it comes to trade and negotiating than I do on the other subjects. So I do give Trump the benefit of the doubt on this stuff. And if you're in the markets today, if you're watching the stock market, I haven't looked at it recently, but it was on pace to hit records earlier today. I don't know if it has come down. Let's check right now. Looks like it's come back down to earth a little bit in the late window, but mostly still up. Came back down to earth a little bit in the late window. Mostly still up, though. Mostly still up. Did you make some nice trades today? That's what I like to do. I like to sit at the gym, make a trade, make a shit post on X, and do a lift, and then repeat the cycle. That's how most of my mornings go. Day trade, lift. Shit post, lift. Day trade, lift. Shit post, lift. It's a Friday. I'm sorry. I don't mean to curse. I'm feeling loosey-goosey today on a Friday. Loosey-goosey today. Feeling nicey. So big trade negotiations ahead for President Trump. The world will be watching. And this is the one where you decide, all right, do I want to piss somebody off today? This is the one where you have to decide. This is what Trump needs to be prioritizing over Israel and Ukraine, quite frankly. Now, again, if you want to look really broad at all of this stuff, then you have to consider the potential of the Ben Gurion Canal and what that means for trade. And you have to consider the rare earths in Ukraine and how Trump is trying to negotiate a deal for us to secure these resources after everything we've lost in the Ukraine war. So I get that aspect of it. But last night, Chanel Ryan, who I like Chanel. I'd consider her a friend. And she's been very gracious to me over the years, inviting me on her show. And we've always had good conversations, good relationship. I don't know her that personally. It's professional, but I've seen this week that she's been going very heavy on China. Now, that could be a strategic thing for her. She's more of kind of the DC type of political talk show host, whereas I'm in Texas. I'm outside of the Beltway. I'm outside of the DC bubble. So it's a different approach when you're in DC. So she might have decided, hey, we're going to focus on the China angle this week ahead of Trump going to Asia. And things are different when you're in a 1 hour block on TV and you got all these other things you got to worry about. Whereas I can just come on here and rant for 3 hours. But I saw Chanel saying this last night, and I responded to her post, and then I re-emphasized it this morning, and I was kind of talking about this yesterday. But it's very important for the American people to understand why priorities are so important when it comes to this administration, and why so many Trump supporters that have been there since 2015, the original Trump base, it's why so many of them are frustrated because they don't like what the White House has prioritized. And they have this silly debate and they pretend like Israel isn't the priority. Look, if you love Israel, fine. But don't be a liar. And that's the problem. It seems like all of these people on the right that support Israel so much are just liars at this point. It's like, don't tell me that this administration hasn't prioritized Israel. You're just a liar. You can disagree with me on foreign policy. You might even like Israel being prioritized. That can be your issue. But don't sit here and lie to us and say, there is no priority in Israel. They're not doing anything in Israel. I see this all the time. Like, oh, in fact, you know what? I wasn't even going to go there today, but let's just go ahead and do it. Let's just go ahead and do it. Since I've already gone here unintentionally, let's just go ahead and do this, shall we? So first, let me explain why China is the biggest winner when it comes to the United States prioritizing Israel and Ukraine. And all the signs point to this is exactly what China is doing intentionally. Why do you think China is over here fiddling with Iran to keep America involved in the region over there? Why do you think China is over here fiddling with Ukraine to keep America distracted over here in Ukraine? And then Senator Kennedy came out, and we played the clip yesterday, and Senator Kennedy says, yes, if China wanted to, they could settle the issue with Iran, and that could be taken care of. If China wanted to, they could settle the issue with Russia, and that could be taken care of. But instead, China is doing the opposite. Why? Because the number one benefactor of the Trump administration, the number one benefactor of the United States of America being tied up and distracted with Israel and Ukraine and now Venezuela, but we'll leave that aside for now. The number one benefactor of this administration being busy fiddling with Israel and Ukraine is China. They want America distracted in Israel. They want America distracted in Ukraine. Because China's over here figuring out what's best for China. China's over here thinking about what's best for China and trade and trying to get a monopoly on rare earths and refining them and everything else, manufacturing, you name it. So they love it. They love it when Trump has to hear from the Israeli lobby all day. They love the fact that Susie Wiles is helping this administration prioritize Israel. And China loves it when Trump gets distracted in Ukraine. Xi Jinping is thrilled when Trump is thinking about Zelensky or Netanyahu instead of Xi Jinping. He couldn't be happier. He couldn't be happier if he was Winnie the Pooh in a vat of honey. Couldn't be happier. Okay? So just understand that. Because that's the real big story that nobody's talking about. So, but now what you see in the geopolitical debate is, well, obviously, the narrative on Israel has been lost. The support for Israel is, for all intents and purposes, gone. It's really just a matter of time at this point. It's obviously still there. There's still a lot of support. It's a struggle session. It's a tug of war, but it's really just a matter of time before there's no support for Israel in America anymore. So that's just a waiting game. But the pro-Israel side, and we're talking about the lobby, and we're talking about, let's say, the ideologues. You've got the ideological support for Israel, and then you have the political support for Israel. But they all know they're losing badly. They all know they've lost the narrative, they've lost the future, they've lost the youth, they've lost the debate. And that's why they're constantly moving and shifting the goalposts to try to restructure the narrative or restructure the debate. None of it's working. So what they tried to do this week, and this is where you start hearing about China now. What they try to do this week is say, oh, but it's China. China's this, China's that. Hey, there's no doubt China is a rival as far as the global market is concerned. There's no doubt China is an adversary. It's kind of like an ally adversary, really. But let's say that China is a big adversary. There's no doubt about that. But since Israel is the big topic now, and it's in a negative light, and it's trending in the wrong direction for the DC establishment, now all of a sudden they're screaming, China, China, and pointing the finger, China, China, China. And it's like, okay, you want to talk about China, you want to talk about what's best for the United States of America, and you want to point over at China and say, focus on China. Don't talk about Israel. Talk about China. Let's talk about China. Who benefits the most from this administration being tied up and tangled up in Israel? And the answer is China. So all you China hawks out there that love to say China, 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 and point the finger at China, 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 all you China hawks out there that also conveniently are pro-Israel, if you're so concerned about China and you really believe that's the number one issue, then you should also be on the side of getting out of the involvement in Israel. That's your own logic. Because the number one benefactor of Trump distracted in Israel is China. So I'm with you. But now you're also with me. See how that works? So I'm with you that Trump needs to prioritize China and trade and production and resources. I'm with you on that. But now you have to be with me that it's time for this administration to wipe its hands of the Israel situation. Because until they do that, Trump will not be able to focus on China. And now Trump has had to do this like pedal to the metal trade situation this week and topple all of these dominoes, making it a very volatile, high-risk situation now that he's going into with these negotiations instead of a more stable, structured situation that he would be going into. So because he's over here distracted by Ukraine and Israel, he basically had to come and throw all of this stuff together and then flip the dominoes before this Asia trip. So that's nice. So I'm glad, see, we can all come together now. So, okay, all the China hawks want you to stop talking about Israel. I agree. China is the big problem, but now your logic is actually working in our favor. And so if China is your big problem, then it's time for us to get out of Israel. It's time for us to stop it and wipe our hands of the situation and focus on China. So it's funny how that works. So they wanted to use that as a distraction since they're losing the narrative war on Israel. But ironically, it actually proves that they do agree with us. So if China's your big issue, then you need to agree with us that Israel doesn't need to be the big issue because it's a distraction from China. All right, I've got a little bit redundant here. This is the biggest gaslighting in American politics today. And I have to deal with this all the time, and I'm sure you do too, if you're active on X about this topic, where they just say, oh, you're obsessed with Israel. Everything's Israel with you. Israel derangement syndrome. This is the biggest gaslighting in American politics today. Hold on a second. Let's be honest. All right. Let's just be honest about everything here. Let's just look at the facts. All right. Let's just look at the recent history, shall we? This month, Trump, Vance, Rubio, and a White House envoy have all been in Israel. Okay? I mean, virtually the White House has been in Israel this entire month. Last month, you had how many members of the U.S. government at the state level, at the congressional level? Like 100, 500? How many? How many took that trip? Remember the picture in front of the building? There were so many people there. The camera angle was so wide, you couldn't even count them. So, again, this month, basically the whole White House was in Israel the whole time. Last month, basically your whole Congress was in Israel the entire month. Let's not forget the religious leaders and the media heads that go visit Israel and had secret meetings and public meetings with Netanyahu. So all of these people are in Israel. The White House is in Israel. Congress is in Israel. State legislators are in Israel. Religious figures are in Israel. Media figures are in Israel. And then if I talk about Israel, I'm told that I'm obsessed with Israel. I'm told that, oh, you tie everything to Israel. You make everything about Israel. What? So what are you asking me here? What is it that you're insinuating here? What is the result that you're looking for here? So I'm to interpret this as you telling me to not talk about Israel, even though our White House spends the entire month there, our Congress spends the entire last month there, and religious and media figures are constantly going in and out of Israel meeting with Netanyahu. And I'm not supposed to talk about it. Is that what you're asking? Is that what you're saying? I don't get it. I'm not the one that goes to Israel. I'm not the one that prioritizes a war in the Middle East. I'm not the one that signs all the bills and supports all the foreign aid and military aid to Israel. That's not me. I just cover it. It's the biggest gaslighting in American politics today that somehow you're crazy if you talk about Israel. So just ignore the fact that your White House goes there. Just ignore the fact that your Congress goes there. Just ignore the fact that your religious leaders and your media leaders go there. Just ignore all of that. Don't talk about it. You're crazy. This is gaslight. This is the biggest gaslight in American politics today. And then you have this new thing that we keep seeing popping up like every week. There's a new person coming out and telling you that Jews are God's chosen people and Israel is superior to America. But don't talk about it and don't take an issue with it. You're a slave and Israel is more important than America. But don't talk about it or you're crazy. Yesterday was Eric Metaxas working with Dinesh D'Souza. They love to remind you. See, this is cuckery. You're just a cuck. That's all you are. It's like you want to be a slave. You want to sit in the corner while your wife is getting taken care of by another man. That's you. And you're mad at us because we're not into that. It's really disgusting. I've never seen it ever in my life. Never seen it. And I've been around Jewish people my whole life. I've had Jewish friends my whole life. I was just on a show last night called Jewcast. A couple of friends of mine that just so happen to be Jewish. I have never had any Jewish person in my entire life ever insinuate that they were somehow better than me or superior to me. I have never had this in my entire life. Never felt that way. Never had it implied. Never in my life until the last couple months. And it's really not even Jews. It's really American Christians that are so cucked by this whole thing. I don't get it. I really don't. But this is the biggest gaslighting. So ignore the fact that your White House is in Israel. Don't talk about it. Ignore the fact your Congress is in Israel. Don't talk about it. Ignore the fact your religious leaders and media figures are in Israel. Don't talk about it. Ignore the fact they're one of the biggest benefactors of foreign aid. Don't talk about it. Ignore the fact that AIPAC is one of the most influential foreign lobbies in Washington, D.C. Don't talk about it. Ignore the fact that Marian Adelson, with her hundreds of millions of dollars, is basically running the Trump administration with Susie Wiles, and Trump admitted it while he was in Israel. Don't talk about it. And if you do, you're the crazy one. You're the crazy one. It's the biggest gaslighting in American politics today. And then it's the biggest cuckery in American politics today. But what's funny is, and it kind of goes back to the same thing with China, where now, since the pro-Israel side is losing the narrative, they're telling you, no, talk about China. Look at China. It's like, okay. So we're on the same side then. We agree that China needs to be the issue, not Israel. All right, so we're on the same side. We took different routes to get there. We kind of had a different map, but all right, now we're here. So we're actually kind of using the same logic in this instance. And I think here's another instance where the same logic is at play, because this is what spurred me to point this out, this gaslighting this morning, saying you would still find a way to tie everything to Israel. But that's you. You're the one doing that. But you're aiming it at us. See, we all see how everything's tied to Israel. The difference is you're politically cucked. You're like the house slave. See, we see these things being tied to Israel, and we're looking at our government, and we're looking at our politicians, and we're looking at our foreign policy, and we're saying, hey, what's going on with this? And why is it all tied to Israel? They see everything is tied to Israel, and instead they look at us, and they say, gee, why do you make everything about Israel? Hold on a second, house slave. Hold on a second, political cuck. We're not the ones that made this about Israel. We're just covering what's going on. And then you're upset at us, even though you see the exact same thing as we do, that everything is tied into Israel. You just somehow blame us for that and not the actual government that's doing it. So it's like, hey, you should be focused on China and not Israel. Oh, I agree. I'm glad we're on the same side. Geez, why is everything tied to Israel? I agree. That's what I'm wondering. Glad we're on the same side. Someday, you'll see things my way. But you never know when you're going to go. As national debt accelerates to $38 trillion, Watchdog warns it's no way for a great nation like America to run its finances. Well, and it's even worse than that. The U.S. national debt surged past $38 trillion, according to the Treasury Department, just 2 months after surpassing previous forecasts to reach $37 trillion in August. This means federal debt rose by $1 trillion in a little over 2 months. Now, folks, here's what's happening. And it's only going one direction because we didn't do Doge. And for whatever reason, Trump loves spending money and increasing the debt. That's just a fact. He did it in his first administration. He's doing it again now. So, and honestly, I could be open-minded to hearing both sides of this logic. It's like the money is fake anyway. Every other country does this. So why shouldn't we do it? Why should we play by the rules when nobody else does? Why should we try to have integrity in our financial system when China doesn't, let's say? So I kind of get that, but let's not pretend that this is a good thing. The reason why the debt went up $1 trillion is because of the interest rates on our debt. And since we're not lowering the debt, the interest rates are going up exponentially. So now your average interest payment is $1 trillion. Folks, if this doesn't change, you're going to be at 40 trillion probably next year. Take that for what you will, but probably not good. Probably not a good thing to be having $1 trillion interest payments. But it's nice to know. It's a nice, not so subtle reminder that the U.S. government doesn't have to play by the same rules as you. If you were in debt, you would not be able to do the things the U.S. government is able to do, especially if you were in an unpayable debt. That's not how this country's supposed to operate. Obamacare Oh, boy. These issues, they get divided on party lines, and then nothing gets done. This is a graph from 1999 to 2025 here. Average U.S. family health insurance premium in 1999, it was $6,000. It was actually just under $6,000. It was $5,800. And it's been steadily increasing ever since to the year 2025. It is now $27,000. So you went from $6,000 to $27,000 in a quarter of a century. That's a 365% increase. Now, Obamacare didn't help that. Nothing the U.S. government has done has helped that. But you have both sides bickering over it like a political issue, a political football that they're kicking back and forth about Obamacare, about the Affordable Care Act, which was a disaster right out of the gates. And then they made the excuse of, well, the website's crashing. Okay. And then the excuse, because the premiums were going up and people were paying more. And then the excuse was, well, it's because not everybody signed up. Okay. Still sucks. And then they just sit here and, we Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, healthcare is a human right. Hey, listen, you jack-offs, you political jack-offs. It doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican. The healthcare costs are going up for everybody. And by the way, we spend the most money on healthcare in this country, and we probably have the most unhealthy country on earth. The obesity rate in this country is like 25%. That is outrageous. That is outrageous. Chronic disease, allergies, mental illness, skyrocketing. And no government involvement is solving any of these issues. Now, truth be told, the individual has to be responsible for their own health. But as far as health insurance is concerned, the private market is where this belongs. That's where health insurance belongs. And every sector, every industry that the U.S. government has gotten involved in, it's gotten more expensive and less effective. Whether it's education, healthcare, energy, the more the government gets involved, the more expensive it is and the less efficient and effective it is. But your piece of crap politicians are going to sit up there on the Hill and play political football with the Affordable Care Act. And they think people care. No pun intended. Carney ready to resume U.S.-Canada trade talks, halted by Trump over Reagan ad. So they played this ad. Ronald Reagan, who probably wasn't as good on trade as Trump, they played this Ronald Reagan ad where he's against tariffs. And Reagan spoke publicly against tariffs a couple times. It wasn't some big issue. But Canada finds the one clip of Reagan saying how bad tariffs are, and they decide to run a political ad against it. So Trump comes out. This was a quick response, by the way, from Carney. This is like less than 24 hours that Carney was responding to this. Trump says he's cutting off trade negotiations with Canada. Let me see if I can find the actual statement from Trump here. I've got it lost in my stack. Let me see if I can find it. If I can't, we'll just move on. Well, nonetheless, they responded in less than 24 hours. Canada responded in less than 24 hours, and they want to come to the table. What do you know? Canada is ready to come back to the table and deal with President Trump. I'm shocked. So that moved fast. So all of this is happening ahead of Trump going to Asia and meeting with Xi Jinping. They also claimed today that inflation was at 3%. It's probably accurate. Beef prices are up. You know, a lot of this economic news, you kind of have to just consume it, but really all that matters is your experience. Beef prices skyrocketed like 4 years ago and have never come back down. I don't see them skyrocketing now. That already happened. Same with gas prices, same with energy prices, everything else. Inflation, all of that happened 4 or 5 years ago. And you know, Trump can't skirt the blame. Trump can't blame all of that on Biden. Now, Biden didn't help. Biden obviously made it worse. But it was 2020 when Trump was in office when we crashed the economy with COVID. That was the Trump administration that did that, not the Biden administration. The Biden administration didn't do any. They made it worse. But let's just be fair. But see, this is why taxes are the biggest. If you want to help the American financially, you have to cut their taxes. Because everything else is getting more expensive. Nothing is getting cheaper. Maybe drugs. Nothing is getting cheaper. All the things that the average American consumer needs or wants, not getting cheaper. So then you have the issue of inflation and you have the issue of, okay, well, what about salaries? So you've got the cost of living going up like this, and you've got the salaries kind of going up like this, the cost of living outpacing the rise of salaries. But even that is not a fair representation. It's actually much worse because your salary is actually getting taxed more. So your salary is not an accurate representation. And the more money you make, the more money you're taxed. So when they show these graphs of the cost of living going up and salaries going up, that's not accurate. Because the salaries might go up, but it's not going up at that rate because you're paying more in taxes. And this is why the economy is in such a bad place. And this is why the average American is living paycheck to paycheck. And this is all because all of our politicians have sold us out for decades. And now they're doing it again. And I was wondering, like, why would John Thune and Mike Johnson, why would they be stumping for Snap yesterday? Did you see that? We played it on the show. I'm like, what type of conservatism is this now? We're stumping for welfare. We're stumping for Snap. And then I had this story sent to me after that yesterday. And then it reminded me of something else we saw a couple months ago. Inside the Republican network behind Big Soda's bid to pitch MAGA against Maha. Do you recall, and this is more like an X thing if you're really on X, but you may have picked up some of this even if you're not. A couple months ago, there was this campaign when RFK Jr. was targeting some of these ingredients in common food and drink items. He was targeting these things, and you started to see these campaigns on the right against it. Now, again, just so people understand what happens behind the scenes here, there are multiple groups, and I'm not even saying you can decide whether it's good or bad, but this is what happens. And I happen to know this because I've been invited into the groups. Now, I don't do the pay for play like they do. I don't post the political messages, the political propaganda, the paid political propaganda that others do. But I've been invited into these groups and I see what happens. But there's these groups, and basically they're just digital marketing groups. And it's like ad buys on social media. It's like ad buys on X. And so anybody can get into these marketing groups, these digital marketing groups, and say, hey, it could be a political movement, it could be a product. They go to these digital marketing groups and they say, hey, we need to push this message. So it could be about a candidate, it could be about a race, it could be about an issue. And then they have all these social media influencers in these groups, and they get paid to post. They get paid. It's like a commercial. It's like if you have a TV network and somebody says, hey, I need to run a political ad, you say, okay, what's the price? And then they run their political ad. Now, it's on social media, people don't have to divulge this stuff, but it came out. So this group that was involved in the food industry that was about to get hurt because of these new rulings from RFK Jr., so they paid a bunch of social media influencers to go out, attack RFK Jr., and say, hey, soda's good for you. These ingredients are really good for you. We don't need to worry about this. And it'll cause prices to go up and all this other stuff. And people were shocked. And then it came out. It's like, no, that's just a digital ad campaign. That's all it is. Just to pay for play. So this story is highlighting it. And it's like, this stuff gets to the highest level, folks. So I'm not blaming you if you're out there and you're a social media influencer and somebody says, hey, $300, whatever the price is, post this thing about RFK Jr. and why we need to keep these things in soda. Just, okay, $300, $500, whatever the price is, just boom. Okay. So I don't blame you. It feels innocent enough. You work hard. You want to make money on social media. I don't blame you. You're a capitalist. Fine. But at the same time, people need to know what you're doing. I think it's fair for people to know that's a paid for ad. There's no laws around this stuff. It's a kind of a gray area right now. So, all right. But that's not where it stops. This stuff goes all the way up to the top. And that's what's this story here. And I'm reading this and I'm like, okay. So the same lobbyists that run these digital marketing campaigns, those are the same lobbyists that lobby on the Hill against Maha. And now it's the Republican leadership. It's the Republican leadership that is now taking the lobbyist money against Maha. Sellouts, man. They are just everywhere, aren't they? These dirty sellouts. By the way, speaking of Maha, Trump reposted Lee Zeldin. The Trump EPA is committed to total transparency. I tasked my team at the EPA to compile everything we know about contrails. Just say chemtrails, man. Just say chemtrails. So they can't even be honest even when they're trying to be. Everything we know about chemtrails, that's what it is. It's chemtrails. It's not condensation. And geoengineering to release to you now publicly. I want you to know everything I know about these topics and without any exception, except you don't want to call it chemtrails. It's like, oh, and I like Lee Zeldin. He's been doing a good job. All right. But it's just like, even when they're trying to be honest with us, they can't. It's just like, sorry, America. Still got to lie to you a little bit. Still got to. Like, you understand that it is intrinsically inaccurate to say contrails in this context. If you're talking about geoengineering, then you're not talking about contrails. And if you're talking about contrails, then you're not talking about anything. You're talking about nothing. So just say chemtrails. Just say it. It's like, we want to be honest with you. We want to tell you what's going on, but we just can't. And I can't tell, is that them so embarrassed? It's not like Lee Zeldin did it, but is that them so embarrassed that they've been spraying us with toxic chemicals? They've been spraying our planet, our country. They've been spraying our earth with these chemicals. Is it that they're so embarrassed that they don't want to say the word chemtrails? Or is it they can just never give us a victory? We can never let them have a victory. And if we say chemtrails, that's giving them a victory. So we just can't do it. But I got to say, on this issue, I do anticipate there'll probably be some major hearings at some point that'll turn some heads. But aside from that, would you say, for me, I was the crazy conspiracy theorist, right, that talked about chemtrails. But it's one of those things where eventually everybody sees it, Eventually everybody sees it. So now people 10 years ago that would have called me a conspiracy theorist talking about chemtrails are sending me pictures and like, oh, take a picture of the sky and they say, oh my God, look at this, it's chemtrails. I'm like, yeah, I know. Someday you'll see things my way, but you never know. You never know when you're going to go. But someday you'll see things my way. That's how it always goes. It only goes one direction, and that's my way. Because we're just based in logic and fact. And don't you want to be too? Isn't that the goal? Isn't that what we're striving for? Truth and transparency. Or maybe it's just the best coffee you've ever tasted in your life, and that would be Blackout Coffee. Now, folks, if you haven't taken advantage of this yet, there's still time. Our friends at Blackout Coffee want you to take advantage of this. When you go to blackoutcoffee.com/Owen and you use coupon code Owen, you will get 20% off your first order. That's 20% off, folks. We're offering you 20% off right now. Take advantage of this offer. Blackout Coffee believes if you give them a try, you're going to become a repeat customer and a customer for life, especially if you're a coffee lover. Now, I have to say, this coffee is so good, it's a little dangerous. I gave up coffee, and then there were a bunch of different coffee companies that wanted to be a sponsor of the show, so I'm doing all these coffee tasting. I'm drinking different coffees and pot after pot after pot. And ultimately, I landed on Blackout Coffee. It was by far my favorite. And then I went through like 2 weeks where it was like if I didn't drink 4 cups of Blackout Coffee, I was drinking whole pots a day. So this coffee is so good, it's actually it's dangerous. You might end up drinking a whole pot every day, like I did for a couple weeks. But the point is, take advantage of the 20% off, folks. And they have so many great products over there. I told you about my favorite roasts, the dark roast, the pitch black espresso dark roast, the brutal awakening dark roast, the 1776 dark roast. But they've got other options for you too. They've got the coffee on the go with the instant coffee, which is just fantastic. Most instant coffees are not good. It's like, they might do the trick. They might scratch the itch, but they're not enjoyable. Blackout's instant coffee is actually enjoyable. But they've got these single serve pods, man. And this is where it's at for people that also, maybe you just want a cup of coffee. You don't want the whole pot, or you want to get something on the go, but you don't want to mix the instant coffee. This is your selection right here. 33 different options when it comes to the single serve pods, from stuff like cherry jelly donut to my favorites, the brutal awakening and the espresso, the pitch black espresso, to other things that are just in season. Like they have a pumpkin spice. There it is, pumpkin spice, all 5-star reviews. So many different options here for all the different people. They got the Christmas stuff already up there, the eggnog, the candy cane, the winter wonderland. So if you like that flavored stuff, if you like that stuff that tastes good and doesn't just have that bold coffee taste, they've got all kinds of options for you. Or you can go right back to the tried and true, the trusted pitch black espresso dark roast, my favorite. They've got the double dark chocolate, by the way, here too. Can't go wrong. Banana Foster. This is all out blackoutcoffee.com. Blackoutcoffee.com/Owen, folks. First order. Try the instant coffee. I'm telling you. Just give it a try. It's the best instant coffee I've ever had. It's not even close. It actually tastes like coffee, which is rare to be able to do that. 5 stars. Nothing but 5-star reviews. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. Take advantage of the 20% off, folks. 20% off. They're giving you 20% off. All you got to do is go place one order. Take advantage of the 20% off. Blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. Coupon code Owen, 20% off your first order. The official coffee of the Owen Report. We thank our friends at Blackout Coffee for the great blends, the great coffee, and for sponsoring the show. First hour in the books. We're going to probably open up the phone lines, and then I got some government shutdown news coming up on the other side.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
Extra dimensional and multi-universal. Here's your host, Owen Schroyer. extra-dimensional, and multi-universal. Here's your host, Owen Schroyer.
All right. All right, hour number 2 now. I'm going to hit a couple of these stories. I could cover news all day. But I don't think we've taken a phone call this week. I don't know. Should we open up the phone lines now? Should we open up the phone lines now, or should we just cover news? Ted Lieu. You know, I was going to do a rant on this, but it was not going to be family friendly. Maybe I could clean it up. But these people are just such scum suckers, man. Stop the Republican shutdown. Save healthcare, Ted Lieu. Aren't you friends with Ed Buck? Isn't that your boy? And this whole thing is a political football. Literally, it's the Democrats that are voting to keep the government shut down. I mean, that's literally what is happening. I'm not even complaining. I really don't even care. But it's like, no, that's the Democrats. You guys are keeping the Democrats shut down. It's just, our politicians are such scum-sucking shitbags. Excuse me. This is me being G-rated. How does this happen? How do we send the scummiest pieces of crap to Congress? Seriously. It's just like the worst of the worst end up in D.C. And maybe that's changing. But polls are showing nobody cares. The shutdown is not affecting anything. The ongoing government shutdown is basically a non-factor in Virginia. This is a Washington Post SCAR poll, and it's others, by the way. It's not just Virginia. This thing is polling at next to nothing everywhere. Like I said, there'll be a point once we cross the 30-day threshold. So once we get into next month and it's still shut down and people start missing their paycheck, then you'll have like maybe at most 1% of people that are actually affected by this. But that's already reflected here. 1% of people care about this issue. 1%. Most people don't care, not interested. And if you just asked them outright, how do you feel about a government shutdown? They probably say it's a good thing. Can we expand it? Can we shut down the whole thing? Now, you have to say that President Trump, and I wonder how he gets this stuff done. I got to be honest. Like, it's I can't tell if it's suspicious or if it's glorious or if it's disgusting. I really can't tell. Is it suspicious or is it glorious or is it disgusting that Trump got all these private donors to fork over? It's probably going to end up being close to $300 million. I think they're saying $250 million, but it looks like it's going to be maybe closer to $300 million. And Trump got all these big names and big companies to donate the money to build the new ballroom. And they have this plaque that they're going to put up, and it's going to have all of their names on it. And most of these guys you'd say are traitors to the country. These are entities that helped steal and rig the 2020 election. These are figures and entities and companies that censored Americans' free speech and played a role in sending people to jail. And it's like, I can't tell. Is it beautiful irony that Trump is making them pay to build the ballroom? Is it more political slop and pay for play of, hey, donate and get your name on the ballroom and, you scratch my back, I scratch yours? Or is it just outright disgusting that these people are going to have their names engraved at the White House? I'm split. I really am. I don't know. I don't know where I land on that. Those are my three. Where does it go from here? Now, this, though, is pretty incredible. I'd like to know who did it. Pentagon to use $130 million donation from anonymous Trump friend to pay military members. Now, how many people can really afford that? So the list is a short list. I'd say Trump and Musk are your number 1 and 2 candidates. It's either Trump or Musk. But there's others. It could be. That's pretty honorable. Pretty heroic, I got to say. And it's funny because I'd like liberals to take a note here. I'd like liberals and progressive Democrats to take note here, because you know that you can always give your money to the government, right? I know you want to reach into my pocket and make me give more money to the government to fund your things, but you know you could just do it. You know that, right? You don't have to steal other people's money. You can just pay for it yourself. You know you can volunteer to pay more taxes. You know you can volunteer and just cut a check to the Treasury and they'll take it. You know that, right? I'm just saying, for all the liberal progressives out there that love big government and love all these government projects and want to raise taxes and steal your money to get them done, you know, you guys can just pay for it yourselves. You guys can cut the check right now if you want. You don't have to steal other people's money to do that. So just a reminder, as some American hero here, I don't care if they're on the left or the right, I don't. This is a heroic act to step forward and volunteer to pay the military during the government shutdown. Good for you. And isn't that really how this country should be operating? That's the real government. We the people. We the people. We are the real government. This monstrosity, this demonic beast that we have in Washington, D.C., that is an evil government. That's not we the people. That's not the intended government. So this is we the people stepping up. Who do you think it is? Who do you think it is? All right, let's just pile drive. Let's pile drive. Pile drive through news. Letitia James pleads not guilty as battle over Trump-urged prosecution begins. She's not guilty. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. What kind of deal is going to be cut for her, I wonder? Can you imagine if she walks, though? Holy smokes. Pam Bondi was on Fox News again last night talking trash on Nancy Pelosi. She does a lot of Fox News. She does a lot of talking. Not much else. And then when she's in the cabinet meeting and Trump asks her to talk, she has nothing to say. She's so bad. I'm sorry. She's really nice and she's a sweetheart, and that's fine. She's horrible. She's a horrible attorney general. What is the deal with Trump and attorney generals? Seriously, what is that? And it was like the only attorney general that I think would have been good quit almost immediately. I forget the guy's name. Big guy, bald head. Looks like Mr. Clean. He was in for like a month last year. I actually met him in D.C. He was a real nice guy. And it's just like, why can't we get an effective attorney general? What is it with Trump and the attorney generals? And just every time it's a swing and a miss. It's like every time. Even it's like we thought Barr was going to be good, and then he ended up stabbing us in the back. So I was curious because Bonnie does about 3 TV appearances a week, specifically on Fox News. So I was trying to figure out, because I don't remember Merrick Garland going on television at all. Do you? So I looked into it as best as I could. How many times do you think Merrick Garland went on television in his 4 years as Attorney General under Joe Biden? I'll give you a second to think about it. How many times did Attorney General Merrick Garland go on TV while he was the Attorney General? The answer is 3. 3 times. Pam Bondi goes on TV 3 times a week. I believe I've seen Pam Bondi on TV 3 times in a single day. Merrick Garland went on 3 times in the entire Biden administration. To the best of my knowledge, to the best that I could find, 3 times. And one of them was on a weekend. Bonnie's on Fox it seems like every day. Why would Merrick Garland not be going on TV? Because Merrick Garland was actually at his desk. Merrick Garland was actually doing the work that Biden and the Democrats wanted him to do, which was not good work. Let's be clear, in case there's any doubt. No, I don't like Merrick Garland persecuting Trump supporters. I don't like Merrick Garland persecuting the enemies of Joe Biden. Merrick Garland was an awful attorney general, a traitorous attorney general, to be clear. But he was actually working. He was actually doing the work that the Democrats wanted him to do, as evil as that work may have been. Pam Bondi spends all of her time on TV and in makeup, scheduling interviews and passing out fake binders. This woman is an abomination. It's really getting to the point of, I'm starting to wonder now, because, folks, let me tell you, the people in D.C. are sick of her. I don't know how far I want to go with this right now, because it's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't really matter if I say it, except I can just sit here and put a feather in my cap and say 2 or 3 months when this stuff goes mainstream. Folks, people in D.C. are sick of this. I'm telling you. And it's funny to watch these people on X, like pretend to get upset with me because I voice frustrations with the administration. And it's like, you understand that people in D.C. and Republicans are just as frustrated. They just can't voice it like I can for obvious reasons. Like, that the things that I'm saying are actually popular in D.C. The people that actually work in D.C. and work for the administration, who they listen to? So I'm just telling you, Pam Bondi, everyone is sick of her. Everyone, and including the Trump loyalists, including the Trump cultists. That's like the only thing where the Trump cultists will dare say anything negative about this administration is Pam Bondi. That's the only one. Nothing else is even touchable. It's the only one. That's how sick people are of Pam Bondi. I just don't get it. So I'm starting to think, is the Trump administration keeping Pam Bondi around so that it makes everyone else look good? It's kind of like how the, girls will have an ugly girl with them because it makes them look better type of thing. You know what I'm talking about? Because I don't care what Pam Bondi has to say. I'm not going to play you the audio from this clip. I care almost zero for what Pam Bondi has to say, because it never has meant anything. Nothing that Pam Bondi has ever said has come to fruition in a meaningful way. So why would I care? Do you think they're keeping Pam Bondi around just to make everyone else look better? Could be. Virginia Democrats plan to redraw their congressional map. They think it will add 3 House seats. So they complain when the Republicans do it, and then they do it. It's all bad. It's all bad. But see, this is why the Republican Party loses, because they'll do something to try to right a wrong, but then they'll lose the narrative war, and then they'll let the Democrats do another wrong in response. So I get why the Republicans are doing their own gerrymandering or redistricting, however you want to say it. They had to, and it was totally fair. But their approach should have been to find a way to stop it from happening altogether. Because the obvious response from the Democrats is what we're seeing. They're just going to redraw too and try to steal more seats. Now, there's not going to be much left. There's not much left for the Democrats to carve out. They've pretty much done it all. But wherever they can now, they'll try. Wherever they can, they'll try. And so it looks like Virginia is the next place they're going to try. And if you want any more proof that these people on the left are not popular at all, folks, I can't believe I'm going to say this. And I don't really mean it, but I do kind of feel bad for Barack Obama now, because Obama kind of turned the Democrat Party into kind of the cool party, right? He kind of made the Democrats and the liberals and the progressives seem like they were the popular kids, they were at the cool table. And the Democrats have never been able to recover. They've never found that aura again. They've never found that charisma again. Joe Biden, please. Please. Karine Jean-Pierre, Jen Psaki, Chuck Schumer, Lori Lightfoot. They've got Gavin Newsom. It's basically it. Maybe AOC, but they're kind of scared of her. They have no aura. And so they're constantly leaning on Obama. They're begging Obama, we need you to endorse this person. We need you to show up at this event. We need you to go on this show. And I think Obama's kind of just like, I think he's checked out, And he and his wife or husband or whatever's going on with that, they're rich. So they don't need this. They know that politics is more high stakes than it's ever been. Political commentary is more high stakes than it's ever been. And I'm sure at a certain degree, Obama knows he's nowhere near as popular as he once was. So I bet Obama would love to go paddle out on his lake above all the dead bodies of his chefs. I'm sure Obama would love to just float out on the lake at Martha's Vineyard above all the corpses of his chefs and just relax. But he can't do it because that's part of the game. Come on, Barack, you're part of the team. Remember what we did for you. And I wonder how much they're like, hey, do you want that chef story to go back viral? Do you want these other stories? We can hurt your reputation, Barack. I wonder if any of that goes on. Because, folks, they've got him activated. I mean, every single day he's doing some new promotional piece for Democrats now. It's not even an election year. So I don't really feel bad for Barack, but part of me is like, I can tell, like, they're lassoing him and dragging him through this. He doesn't even want to do it. You can tell. You can tell they're forcing it on him, and he's not even interested, but he does it anyway. Gavin Newsom and Barack Obama had 200 people watching their stream last night. 200 people watching their stream last night. Folks, we've got 7,000 on X alone right now. I'm not even that big. How's the Michelle Obama podcast going, by the way? Yeah. Is that one making any headlines? Making any news? Anybody watching that? Any clips? Anything? No, not seeing it. Not seeing it. These people are so unpopular. These people are such losers. And the two men that they have left with any aura, the two men that they have left with any charisma, Obama and Newsom, and they can't even get 1,000 people to watch a live stream. They can barely get a couple hundred. Now, at some point, the Democrats are going to realize that Newsom is kind of the last of this dying breed, where you can kind of be a traditional Democrat, but still be cool. He's the last. He's the last of the dying breed. And so they're going to probably try to run him and get him in the White House. And I would say that's a formidable candidate. But you know where it goes afterwards, right? I would say the highest odds right now is Bernie Sanders and Gavin Newsom. And I know that's insane to say Bernie Sanders, but I think the Democrats have realized now it's like, crap. We screwed Bernie over 3 straight elections. Let's throw him a bone one last time. Let's throw him a bone, and maybe he can kind of help us out as he, goes into his twilight years. Because you know where the future is for the Democrats, right? It's Mom Donnie. It's AOC. That's it. That's the future of the party. And there'll be others like them. There are others like them ideologically, but they don't have any charisma. They're not popular. Does AOC really have charisma, though, or is it just kind of the big booty Latina with the doll face and the doll eyes? Is it just that, or does she have real charisma? Maybe a little. Maybe there's a little aura there. But, Gavin Newsom kind of has that Obama or that Obama charisma. Yeah, he's cool, man. He's chill, man. He's one of us. He's cool. But after Newsom, they have nothing. And it's going to be Mamdani. It's going to be AOC and whoever follows. But this just shows you how unpopular they are. Nobody watches their crap. Nobody cares what they say. Even Obama, folks. Even Obama can't draw ratings. I love this from Cernovich here. And I don't even think he makes the final point. And I don't know if he's intending for you to read between the lines here. So I'll try to translate and make the final point here. New York City is about to elect a Bolshevik who hates Israel. In Maine, Democrats are rallying behind a man with a Nazi tattoo because he hates Israel. But pro-Israel donors yelled at Charlie Kirk, a great friend of many, for not canceling people. Such folly. So here's my translation. And this is what I think Cernovich is getting at. And I said this the other day. It's like the people that have been in this since 2015 and 2016, we see the same things. Now, I don't agree with Mike Cernovich on everything. I disagree with a lot of things. But he sees the same things. So it's like we both live in the same world and see the same things. He just has some different takes, maybe some different opinions. Like another guy that I like, Maj Toure. Been around since 2016. I disagree with a lot of things he says. But we see the same things. So it's this crazy thing. It's like the people that have been around since 2015, we all see the same world. We all live and see the same world, even if we have different opinions on it. Most of these people don't even live in reality, folks. They're lost in a world that doesn't exist. So my translation here is that, and I've been saying it for years, the gatekeeping inside the Republican Party, I guess this is what he says is such folly, but that's what it is. The reason why the Republicans can never go on a generational run is because of the gatekeeping. And the situation with Charlie and Turning Point, which is a whole situation now. That's just maybe the biggest example, but that's just one example of how the whole party operates, folks. It's all one giant gatekeeping operation. It's like high school. Who gets to sit at the table and who doesn't? Who gets to go to the 16th birthday party and who doesn't? Who gets to go on the limo to prom and who doesn't? Whereas the Democrats are just like, anybody and everybody, come on in. Anybody, come on down. We'll take them all. We don't care. A woman chopped your breasts off and put a man piece in between your legs. Come on down. Oh, yeah, you hate these people. You hate that. You hate white people. You hate Jews. You hate all these people. Come on in. Join the party. We want everybody. And then Republicans, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, fiscal conservative. I like border security. Voted for Trump 3 times. And don't like the influence Israel has on foreign policy. You're out. Get lost, bigot. No room for you here. You're like, what? Look at my voting record. Look at. No. If you don't agree with us on foreign policy, you're out. I think there's a word for something like that. It's called I think it's called a cult, right? I think that's what we call that. If I'm not mistaken. I think it's a cult. By the way, the guy with the Nazi tattoo, Graham Plattner, has apparently, I don't know, did he get a new tattoo or is it fake? They tattooed over his Totenkampf. Apparently, he's tattooed over the Totenkampf. I guess that's a permanent deal. I don't know. They tattooed over it. See, I'm not a Nazi. Oh, you're totally cool now. The Democrats send this guy up. I mean, you've got Democrats in text messages saying kill Republicans. You've got Democrats with literal Nazi tattoos, the Totenkampf, which I think is just kind of a cool skull. I mean, whatever. I don't think he was making a statement about Nazis. I think he just put a skull on his chest, but whatever. So this former Marine has a Totenkampf skull, and now he tattoos over it with this. And look at the lengths the Democrats will go to bring you into the party. It's like, hey, there have been some bad press because of your tattoo. It's like, yeah, it is a Totenkopf. It is a Nazi skull. Yeah, there's been some bad press. So, but we want you to run. We'd like to elect you. We'd like you to be the next senator of Maine. The tattoo's cool with us, and your ideology is cool with us. We want you to win. So, why don't we set up an interview and have you pop the shirt off? And why don't you get a new tattoo? Get something that's, something that's more friendly. Maybe something that people in Maine like. Maybe look for some local culture. I guess this is some Celtic wolf he has here. It looks like some Celtic wolf. I don't know. It's like, why don't you get something tribal or cool, and we'll get you on TV and we'll pop that shirt off. We'll zoom in on your nipple and everything. It'll be great. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, don't worry about that Nazi tattoo. We can, we'll take care of that. But on the right, it's like on the right, if you say, hey, I don't like foreign aid to Israel, you're done. And we're going to destroy your life. And we're going to slander you. And we're going to smear you. And we're going to blacklist you. And we're going to censor you. We will destroy you. What? I've voted Republican my entire life. I've gotten involved in conservative action. I'm a very conservative member of my community. I support and promote conservative values. I'm a business owner. I've donated to Republicans before. Yeah, but you disagreed on Israel, so you're out. Get out. Get out. Oh, Democrat pops up. Hey, I got this Nazi tattoo. Can I still run? No problem. Pop that shirt off. We'll take care of that. Hey, I'm a Democrat. I threatened to kill some people in a text message, Is that going to stop? Will you guys still back me even if I text people how I want to kill them? No problem. We'll come out and say it was PTSD. We'll come out and say, you had a lapse. We want you. We want you to run. Nice. That's how that goes. Yeah. Andrew Cuomo. You've got Eric Adams, by the way. I should probably get Sal Greco on about this because he's got his finger on the pulse of this situation. Former NYPD cop. Eric Adams and Cuomo are basically running the same operations here. They're both compromised by the same issues, and the same groups basically funded both of their campaigns. So now Adams has endorsed Cuomo after dropping out. And now Cuomo is saying that Mamdani is an existential threat to New York City. Now, here's what I would love to see. And I understand why the Democrats don't like Mamdani, because he's his own person and he's kind of unpredictable and uncontrollable. So the Democrats they'll work with any radical that comes along, no problem, but they want to make sure they can be controlled. And so they kind of had to it was like an AOC situation where they're like, we're not sure if we can really corral and control her. And then Nancy got her under boot and now she's good to go. Well, Mamdani isn't there yet. But I would like to know what difference is there politically between Cuomo and Mamdani? In fact, forget even about Cuomo. Where is the big space policy-wise? Where is this gap between Mamdani and the Democrat Party platform? I don't see it. All the stuff that Mamdani talks about has been mainstream liberalism for 10 years. All the stuff Mamdani talks about is out of the Barack Obama era. So where is this? Where is the daylight separating Cuomo from Mamdani? It doesn't exist. In fact, I would say the only thing is that Mamdani is not corrupt. But that's not true either. I just think he's not controllable like the other candidates. That's what I see. I think Mamdani is his own person to some extent. I'm sure he's got issues, and other people have talked about this corruption. This is no endorsement of Mamdani, just to be clear. But I'm just saying that they're attacking Mamdani. He's an existential threat. Dude, he has the same policies as mainstream Democrat platforms for 10 years. So it's an odd thing to say that Mamdani is an existential threat. His policies are mainstream liberalism and progressive Democrat policies for the last 10 years. So if you're saying Mamdani is an existential threat, you're admitting that Democrats are an existential threat. Welcome to the party. Nice to have you here. But of course, you don't mean it. And Mamdani's doing these photo shoots now on the subway, and he's on the New York City bus. They came out with this new logo here, and I guess the New York Knicks took legal action. They came up with this New York Knicks knockoff Zoran Mamdani logo. Now, my guess is they probably consulted a legal team before publishing this. And when it comes to copyrighted images, there's things you can get away with and there's things you can't get away with. And it's all kind of arbitrary. My guess is, though, this would probably pass in court. I don't know. I think that this would probably pass whatever arbitrary rules they have for copyright on images and logos. But we'll find out. I wonder what Mamdani, because now they have to think about what is worse. Does it look worse for us to take down the logo and basically tell the New York Knicks to F off? Or does it look worse does it look worse to keep the logo and tell the New York Knicks to F off? Or does it look worse to drop the logo and just say, oh, okay, the Knicks don't like us? It's a pretty solid logo. I'd keep it. My guess is they talked to the legal teams and they said, yeah, this is passable. But maybe we'll find out. Maybe we'll find out. By the way, you know, there's one person running against Randy Fine in Florida. Randy Fine, who he's one of the worst in Congress. A really despicable person who has a foreign flag in his office, higher than the American flag, by the way, who likes to celebrate mass death, Randy Fine. A truly demonic entity. And the only person running against him in his primary, Aaron Baker, is now being censored on X. And so Aaron Baker is wondering, he's running for Florida District 6 against Randy Fine. Baker is wondering if AIPAC and Fine aren't meddling in social media to censor him to make sure that he can't win. Why is that? Why is it that the only primary candidate to death merchant Randy Fine, why is it that he's being censored on X when he's a candidate for office? That's odd. It'd be nice to get a death merchant and a foreign agent like Randy Fine. Oh, he's not a foreign agent. He just flies the foreign flag in his office. Don't be confused. That doesn't mean any foreign loyalties. Right. Keir Starmer says Ukraine's future is our future. What happens in the weeks and months ahead is pivotal for the security of the United Kingdom and all our allies. Here's the big lie. Here's the big lie, and here's what globalism actually represents politically. They want every issue to be your issue. They want every country's issue to be your issue. They want every country's struggle to be your struggle. And this is how they tie you down to these things like anchors and sink you. So you'll never be free, you'll never be prosperous, and you'll never have peace. Because somewhere on planet Earth, somebody is struggling. Somewhere on planet Earth, somebody is at war. Somewhere on planet Earth, something bad is happening, and that's your problem. This is what political globalism is all about. It's anchoring you and tethering you to everyone else's problems on the planet so that you'll never have true sovereignty or peace or prosperity. That's political globalism. That's what Keir Starmer is saying. Everybody should be disgusted by this. But this is what they want. And then, of course, what's the solution? More government, global government. And then you giving up your freedom, your sovereignty, your peace, your prosperity, because there's somebody on the other side of the planet that needs help. And so you need to, that's your problem now. This is what they're selling. This is what the political globalism agenda is. Muslim migrant declares, I'm here to rule you. This is my land. It belongs to Allah. And this is the UK. This is the UK. But see, you now, under globalism, you have to accept this. You, in the UK, you have to accept the Islamification because that's globalism. And you have to accept this asylum seeker convicted of hotel workers' murder. He was living in the taxpayer-funded asylum hotel, attacked a woman, killed her. And you have to live with this because that's political globalism. And he came from a country that was struggling. And so you had to pay his way into Europe so that he could kill this woman. And now that problem from the other side of the world is now your problem in Europe. And now you have a European dead. That's political globalism. See how that works? You import the third world problems, you become the third world. Political globalization. Now, this is a very important story to me. And I think it has, it's amazing how this barely got any coverage. IDF arrests bomb throwers after two bus attack. Israeli forces arrested 3 Palestinians suspected of throwing a homemade explosive that wounded 2 IDF soldiers in Tubas, with the suspects confessing during a Shin Bet interrogation. So let me just say, as somebody that's obviously very critical of Israel and what they've been doing in this war, I celebrate this. I tip my cap to this. This is how it should be done. If we are truly an advanced civilization, if we are truly an advanced people, and we think we're better than our enemies, or in a case like this, Israel, more civilized, more humane than the people in Palestine, or more specifically Hamas, and if you believe that, then you need to act like it. This is how it's done. You go after the bad guys, and you act like you're the elite soldiers. And you do it quietly and effectively. And by the way, that's what the American Special Forces do. When they have a bad guy or a group of bad guys that they want to take out, they don't carpet bomb an entire country. They don't completely annihilate an entire civilization. And just, I hear the retorts about Iraq and Afghanistan and all. Just relax. Nothing was ever like what Israel did in the Gaza Strip. Nothing. Not even close. American forces go in quietly, efficiently, effectively, remove the threat, and get the hell out. Because they're the best in the world. And Israel has every single capability to act in a similar manner. And they can, and when they want to, they do, just like this. So I will celebrate. I will celebrate this from the IDF. I will celebrate this from Israel. This is how you should have handled the Gaza Strip. This is how you should have handled it. You should have sent in your elite units. You should have used your elite intelligence infrastructure, and you should have targeted the bad guys and got the hostages back. Because let's be clear. Let's be clear about something. Israel bombing the entire Gaza Strip did not bring a single hostage back. Not one. You know who got the hostages back? Donald Trump did. President Trump got the hostages back by negotiating. So when you see this stuff and you see all the people that are trying to make excuses for what Israel did in the Gaza Strip, killing 70,000 people and flattening an entire civilization, saying this is what it took to get the hostages back, you're a liar. That didn't get a single hostage back. That killed hostages. That killed innocent women and children and didn't get a single hostage back. President Donald Trump got the hostages back. Let's make sure this is very clearly understood. Israel's bombing campaign in Gaza did not get a single hostage back. President Trump got the hostages back. That's what did it. And Israel had every capability to send in its elite units and take out the bad guys just like they did right here. And that I will celebrate. And I'm not a war guy. But you know what? If we're going to claim to be the best, and we're going to claim to be the most advanced, and we're going to claim to be the civilized ones and the elite ones, then you better act like it. Don't you think? If you're truly an advanced civilization and a humane civilization compared to your enemy, this is how it's handled. So for all the criticism and the issues I've had with the IDF and the Netanyahu regime, I'm always fair, folks. I always give credit where it's due. This is how it's done. Find the bad guy, send in the elite units, do it quietly, do it efficiently, and you take the bad guys down and you spare innocent lives. That's what an advanced civilization does. That's what the truly elite do. And so if you want to be the elite military and you want to be the advanced civilization and you want to have the moral high ground and you want to combine all of these elements to say we're the best on planet Earth, this is how it's done. You don't carpet bomb an entire civilization. You don't annihilate an entire country. You don't kill 70,000 people, many innocent women and children. That's inhumane. That's sinking down to your enemy's standards and levels. This is how it's done. And you could have done it. Isolate the targets, isolate the bad guys, send in your elite units, and take them down quietly and effectively. That's how the most elite and moral superior militaries and civilizations do it right there. So I'll give Israel credit. That's how it's done. Good job. No innocent people were killed, and you got the bad guys. And you didn't have to annihilate an entire village to do it. That's how it's done. And if you want to claim to be the most advanced civilization, and you want to claim to be the most advanced military, and you want to claim to be the most morally superior people on earth, then that's how you do it. And if you would have been doing it like that after October 7th, you wouldn't be dealing with 90% of the issues you're dealing with politically today. You wouldn't be. But you did. And so you are. And I wonder if that approach wasn't changed because of President Trump. I wonder. Because, by the way, most of that bombing happened before Trump came into office, too. So there you go. Now, that's a very positive coverage of Donald Trump. And now probably this is going to be a little negative. So this was Trump yesterday. And they just blew up now. I think they've blown up 9 of these, what they're claiming to be cartel boats. But see, getting back to that, we could easily be seizing these boats and not blowing them up and not killing people. But let me just play this clip from Trump. And before I play it, let me ask this. Does this sound like somebody that deserves a Nobel Peace Prize?
And briefed them on the operations.
No, we will go. I said.
You will go, and
we
it would
will
be
go.
difficult for them to object.
I don't see any loss in going. No reason not to. You know, they'll always complain, oh, we should have gone. So we're going to definitely, I'd like to just tell you, let's go. We'll go.
And Mr.
We're going to
President,
tell them what we're going to do, and I think they're going to probably like it, except for the radical left lunatics.
And Mr. President, if you are declaring war against these cartels and Congress is likely to approve of that process, why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead. Okay?
And
Does that sound like somebody that deserves a Nobel Peace Prize? We're going to kill them. They're going to be dead. I mean, come on, folks. This isn't even a policy stance. I actually, even though I don't like what he said, I kind of admire the way he said it, because he's just being very honest. You know, he's not deciding what he's going to say. He's just like, yeah, I don't know if we'll declare war. Probably not what you want to say, because if the Democrats do win the House, they're going to impeach you over these boat strikes, and then they're going to say, see, he never declared war and he killed these people anyway. So really, that was that was a big oversight for him to just say it. I admire it because I think they're being honest. I think he's just being candid, which I admire. But if the Democrats win the House, I bet your bottom dollar that clip is going to come up and they're going to say, you're unconstitutionally striking people. You didn't declare war. Guarantee it. But aside from all that, does that sound like somebody that deserves a Nobel Peace Prize? Come on. Aren't we supposed to hold that honor in a pretty high regard? Okay. So maybe someday, President Trump, but not when you're talking like that. But getting back to what I was just saying, if we want to be the truly elite, if we want to be morally superior, if we consider ourselves the advanced civilization, then why are you just blowing up these boats? Why aren't you seizing the boats? Why aren't you sending the National Guard or the military out to actually seize these boats? And if the answer is, well, we don't want to put our military members' lives at risk, fair enough. We can all agree that, okay. But at the same time, that is what they signed up for. And I would imagine that you can probably mitigate that risk. I don't think these guys have giant missiles or torpedoes on their boats. Their probably biggest artillery is probably some AK-47s, which I think you can probably, if they do decide to pick one of them up or fire one of them, then you can probably end it real quick then. But why aren't they seizing these boats? It's a fair question. You know they could. You know they could easily seize these boats. And at the risk of, people trying to label me a bleeding heart liberal over this, but we do tend to leave the human element out of the equation, folks. And you can say, well, they're drug dealers. They don't deserve that. Fine. Okay. You're not going to hear much fuss from me. But let's just be real about the situation. You know, I met a few of these drug runners when I was in prison. A few some pretty high rolling ones. A couple that got 20+ year sentences. I mean, big guys that were bringing in a lot of fentanyl. One guy claimed to me he was the #1 fentanyl dealer for the entire West Coast. I think he got 25 years. This is a young guy. Who do you think is doing these boat missions? These are young guys. This guy had 3 kids. He was, I think, 25 years old. He got picked up, I think, when he was 22 or 23. He had 2 kids. And, you know, you can believe him or not. He claims he feels bad about it. But as you probably hear in situations like this, had no other choice. Gets initiated into a gang when he's 16. Doesn't know any other way of life. Doesn't have a dad. The gang becomes the family, and then you're, 18 years old. You're running drugs. It's not good. I'm not endorsing that. I'm just trying to add the human element to this. Do you think, and that's a risk you take. Hey, look, you want to deal drugs? Then you're risk getting killed for dealing drugs. Let's full spectrum fairness here. But I'm just saying, I'm just saying. He still gets to ride his kids. He still gets to have a phone call with his kids in prison. Seems to me like he genuinely feels bad about it. And probably the prison life is a better life than he ever had outside. So is it worth just killing these people? Is it worth killing some 18-year-old kid that just doesn't have any other options, let's say? And again, you can't even, that's a stupid thing to say. I'll accept that. That's a fair attack point to say, oh, he has other options. All right, fair. I'll sacrifice that point. I'm just trying to make a point here, people. If we want to be the morally superior nation, if we want to claim to be the morally superior military and civilization and the most elite, then we should be seizing these boats. We should be attempting to bring these people in without killing them. And we should be presenting all of the evidence of what it is that they're doing to the American people. That's what we should be doing. Blowing these boats up and providing no evidence to the American people and not declaring war is not the morally superior thing to do. It's just not. And this is probably unpopular on the right. And I'm not even looking for some big debate on this. If you disagree, fine. I don't really care. I'm just saying, is this Nobel Peace Prize worthy? Is this what the truly advanced and morally superior and elite civilization does? Or would they send in their best units and take the bad guys down without killing anybody and then bringing back the evidence for the American people to see so they can lay out their case? That's all I'm saying. And if you truly believe that just blowing them up and providing no evidence is the better answer, well, that's a you thing. That's a you thing. All right. Closing out the second hour here. Still got a lot of news. Still want to take phone calls. We'll try to do it all here as we close out. Folks, winter is approaching. Winter is approaching. And I'm asking you, what are you doing to prepare for an emergency? What are you doing to prepare right now for a winter emergency? Have you taken proper protocols? Have you thought about the potentials, the power going out, an ice storm, grocery stores being shut down? We had to deal with all of this, actually, in Austin, Texas, a few years back. First time I ever had to eat emergency food in my life. And I learned a lot of things. Like, okay, having an emergency food supply is one thing, but then what are you doing for heat? Do you have a fireplace at your house? Are you able to produce heat when there's no power? Do you have emergency food to eat? What about water? Do you have water to drink? Do you have water to cook with, to boil? Do you have anything to boil the water on? If your stove is electric, what do you do? And it's unfortunate when you have to go through these things and learn the hard way, but we did here. So as somebody that's been through it and learned the hard way, let me advise you, don't learn the hard way. Learn from me, get prepared for winter emergencies now, and do it with my friends at mypatriotsupply.com. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Owen to get this winter prep 3-month emergency food kit with $400 in free gifts. This deal is a major price decrease right now, folks. This is a limited time offer. I don't know how long they're going to keep this deal up. Normally, at cost from My Patriot Food Supply, what they're offering is over $1,100 in value. Right now at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen, you can get this deal for under $700. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Owen to take advantage of this incredible 3-month emergency winter kit right now. Now, the one thing that's special about this kit that you're going to love is the emergency space heater. And this thing is so cool and so versatile. That's the Vesta off-grid space heater. And it's a space heater that doesn't use electricity, so you can run it when you don't have power. It runs on canned heat, which is an indoor safe fuel. And it'll give you all the directions and how to use it, obviously, in the kit. And with the Vesta space heater in your closet, you know you can keep warm no matter what. And it also doubles as a stove so that you can boil water and cook food with it. So very versatile, very important. I don't have a fireplace in my house. Most people in Texas don't have a fireplace in their house. So when the power went out, what are you doing for heat? Well, you're basically freezing. There were people in Austin that froze. Quite literally, actually, people even froze to death. But I know people that were basically living in a house that was 30 degrees and lower when they didn't have power. And we had to do some pretty desperate things. I had a fire pit that I put kind of next to in my backyard. I have a sliding glass. I put the fire pit there. Probably not a good idea, but we were freezing our tails off, so we had to do something. I wish I would have had a Vesta space heater then, but you can get it now. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. Folks, take advantage of this sale. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. This is a winter special sale that they're doing right now, the winter emergency food kit. And if you don't have emergency food, then what are you doing? Come on, get yourself emergency food. It's insurance you can eat. And believe me, you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. A lot of people learn that through experience. So go to mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. Take advantage of the Winter Prep 3-month emergency food kit with $400 in free gifts, including the Vesta space heater. mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. Take advantage of this deal and check out all their emergency supplies at mypatriotsupply.com. We thank our friends at mypatriotsupply.com for keeping us prepared for the worst.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
It's the fastest 3 hours on the internet. It's the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
All right, producer Dominic might have some breaking news for us here if he wants to chime in. I do want to open up the phone lines. I do have other news to cover, though. It's Friday. It's Friday. You got any special plans this weekend? Oh, I think the World Series kicks off tonight. All the Toronto Blue Jays fans are dusting off their ball caps and their shirts that they haven't worn in years. And now they're big Blue Jays fans up there in Toronto. I got the Dodgers in 6, and that might be being nice. Wouldn't shock me if the Dodgers won it in 4, quite frankly. I got the Dodgers in 6. What do the odds makers say on that? I don't see anybody beating the Dodgers right now. Too good of pitching. Too deep of a lineup. But World Series tonight. It's one of those rare times if you're a sports fan, you got baseball, basketball, football, and hockey all happening right now. If you're into that kind of stuff. If you're into gambling, be careful. Try not to gamble on the rigged ones. Or actually do gamble on the rigged one. Just, make sure you know. Make sure you're in with the information. You know what I mean? Make sure you got that inside scoop. You ever had that before? A lot of these bookies, a lot of these odds makers, they get it. Gee, Owen, how would I know that? I have no idea. I don't know where the producer is. Hey, if you want to come on and break that news, let me know. He's sitting in the digital studio right now, but sometimes he's just not ready to go on air when I call him out like that. So he'll probably break this news in a second. I want to do one thing here before I open up the phone lines, and we'll take calls and maybe cover the rest of this news. I don't think I played any of the video clips on my list today. I need to kind of re-examine that. But you remember yesterday I was talking about this issue that the right wing now has with hate. And, I think we're seeing the right now in a lot of ways start to mimic and mirror a lot of the things that we saw on the left and a lot of things that right wingers were quick to call out the left for, like hate, censorship. Now the right seems to be kind of into these things, cultish behavior. There's a lot of this happening in the right now. So it's really just kind of like rewind the clocks 10 years and it's where we were at, which is unfortunate. But now there's an issue with hate. And yesterday we showed some of these big names on the right talking about how much they hate this group or that group, and they're excited. They said, "I'm so excited to see others joining me in this hatred." I'm like, I'm not joining you. I don't have a hateful bone in my body. It's true. I get passionate. I get angry. And maybe hate has a purpose temporarily in some instances, but it's better left untouched. But now here it is again. Here it is again with the promotion of hate on the right wing from another huge account, Cat Turd, 3.9 million followers, the turd you can't flush, with his litter mates. The For You is now unusable. It's just 100% people you hate now. Why do you have hate? What is going on, guys? Don't you realize you sound like the left now? You sound like the left with your gatekeeping. You sound like the left with your cultish support systems. And now you sound like the left with your hate. I thought hate was exclusively for the left. Now it's all over the right from some of the biggest accounts. Drop the hate, man. Drop the hate. Passion, debate, disagreements, anger even. Drop the hate. It's a cancer. It will destroy you. Hate will eat you up from the inside and destroy you. And I think maybe that's what's happening with a lot of these right wingers. They're gripping onto some hate. And maybe it's political, maybe it's something else, but it's starting to really tear them apart. It's tearing the movement apart, you could even say. Sorry, not going to promote hate here. Not going to do it. Don't have a hateful bone in my body. Just can't. So, with that, I guess we can open the phone lines. I don't think there's anything else too important in my news here. There's a couple maybe things that might be a little important. Most of it is just fun stuff. And then I've got these video clips that maybe we'll get to. But you know what? I don't think I took a call all week. So let's change that. Let's open up the phone line, shall we? 747-200-5560. The number is on the screen. One line I pick up and you're on the air. I just ask you your name and where you're from. That's it. But you're on the air. So when you hear my voice, that's you on the air when I ask you your name and where you're from. 747-200-5560. And we will get you up and on the air. All right, everything's good on my end. Where's my phone line? There we go. Okay. All right, first caller of the day. What's your name? Where are you from?
Hey, Flatliner from Wisconsin.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, I was wanted not really disagree with you, but wanted to ask you, wouldn't you agree that it's okay to hate evil? Because I have this like profound hatred for evilness, like a bully That just won't go away, specifically with evil, like people who are controlled by the devil and the devil himself. And I think humanity needs to like stick up against the devil and, you know, squash evil and
I would
not try to
say,
bargain with it.
I would say my approach philosophically to this, and I kind of said it, it's like hate might have its purpose temporarily. It might have its purpose in a very temporary way, but it's very dangerous because long-term hate will consume you. It will destroy you. It will blind you. It will bind you, and it will ruin you. So maybe hate has a purpose, and maybe there's an unavoidable aspect of it. Maybe it has a purpose in a very short-term window, but it's very dangerous because once you let it in, it can totally consume you.
I totally agree with you that, you know, especially when people have like unfounded hatred, you know, they just becomes obsessed with them. And I've met you before at the abortion protests, and you can see those people, they look like zombies, you know, they have like the life force sucked out of them. They look very sickly, you know, and like dark circles under their eyes. And I think that's from the hatred.
Yeah.
And like the hatred of life, they hate themselves, you know, and like, if anything, Jesus talks about is like the importance of love, you know, and love being the counter to hate. You know, love is empowering and gives life, you know. So I just wanted to ask your opinion on that. You know, I believe in the devil, you know, and God stuff pretty profoundly. Like I've died and came back. And, you know, on the other side, you know, once you see that, it's like, you know, it's like finding out Santa Claus is real, you know? And I think a lot of people. What?
Santa?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know, people believe and people have faith and stuff, but once you die and see the other side and come back, it's like, you know, you can't deny it, you know, and how much of this is like a simulation and, you know, how nice heaven is and you want to go back to heaven and stuff. You know, judgment.
You know,
and all that.
And I wonder too. And again, you know, maybe people will be like, "You sound like a bleeding heart liberal." Well, you know, maybe the liberals don't get everything wrong. But you know, I wonder too, because you hear this from the left, and I'm not like this isn't something I engage in, but you hear this like, "Ooh, self-love," right? Like, "Oh, self-love," and it's mostly just liberal BS, hippie crap. But I think that there is a psychological thing that I see in humans where if you don't love yourself, then you can't love anyone else. And I think a lot of these people on the left, and maybe we're seeing a little bit on the right, but I think a lot of these people on the right, on the left, I think they just hate themselves. I think they're unhappy in their own skin, and because of that, the hate consumes them, and they just hate everything.
And they have super low self-esteem, you know, because they have to be told how to feel. They never learn what to like and who they are. They don't know an identity. They've always been provided an identity. So they're lost. You know, they haven't gone through the trials and tribulations, the failures, the struggles, you know, and that's crucial for building an identity. And I think it's a big issue because it's like, we're never, ever going to be able to convert a lot of these people.
Yeah.
They'll go down with the ship, you know, and like you can see with New York, you know, and these people who are like, yeah, communism is going to work this time and open up the jails, and they really think it's going to work. It's like, it never works. And communism is hand in hand with anti-Christian, anti-religious philosophies, because you can't have religion and in communist government because the state is the highest power.
Yeah, they make you worship the government.
Yep. So I think that's next going to be in New York.
You know, here's an interesting point on that. Thank you for the call, Flatliner. Here's an interesting point on that. Somebody asked me, I think it was Josie, the redheaded libertarian. I don't remember, but it's on brand for her, and I talked to her. So I think that might have been who asked me. They said, is saying the Pledge of Allegiance communist propaganda? Is saying the Pledge of Allegiance socialist propaganda? And you have to be able to have an open mind when you think about this stuff and not have like a reactionary, cemented mind. And I was like, okay, you know, that's interesting. Let me think about that. And I kind of reached the conclusion, yes, actually. The Pledge of Allegiance, making kids do it every day before school, kind of is a socialist thing. Now, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I would actually argue it's a positive thing. You know, sometimes, you know, you can have a bad concept, a bad idea, but maybe there's one or two things that are good in it. So it's like, I can understand the purpose of the Pledge of Allegiance, you know, making people feel united as a country, making people proud of their country and proud of the flag, and keeping people united in that system. So I don't think the Pledge of Allegiance is a bad thing. I'm not saying get rid of it. But it was actually, I believe it was Harry Truman, either during or after World War II, Harry Truman added the God part to it. God was not originally in it. It was only pledged to the country, and then they added God to it. So it's like, what are you focused on? Where do you want to direct civilization? Do you want to direct them to a higher power? Is the higher power government? Is the higher power God? Do you want to direct them into being proud of their heritage, proud of where they come from, who they are? Or do you want to demonize that? Do you want to tear it down? And really, when you start to think about the bigger picture like that, that's where the left and the right really, I think, have the ideological differences. Because when it gets down to politics, it's still the uniparty, right? It's still the uniparty. No matter who you vote for, you still get more war. You still get more government. You still get more taxes. But directionally, it's like, hey, I want people to be proud of their country. I want people to be proud of their heritage, because that gives them a reason to protect it and take care of it. Like somebody that owns a house is probably going to take better care of it than somebody that rents or lives in a government subsidized project where these things crumble within 10 years. The left wants you to hate your heritage. They want to destroy it. And that's what they indoctrinate you into. And there's that word again, hate. You know, there's that nasty word again. Next caller, what's your name? Where are you from?
Hey, this is Ahmed from New York. Happy Friday. What's going on, y'all?
What's up, Ahmed?
What's going on? I just wanted to ask everybody in the audience, I wanted to ask you also, Owen, to chime in. We know that the founding fathers built this country, were Freemasons. And I would like to ask you, since we send so much money to Israel and so much illegal funding to Israel, is it all right that that there's Masonic lodges located in Israel, like the St. George Lodge? Is there a Lodge of Israel also located in Israel? Is it fair that we're supposed to trust our elected politicians and with what they're doing, if they have lodges inside Israel also?
Well, what connection are you making? Because you're all over the map. You talked about the founding fathers and then Israel and now our politicians. What's the connection?
I would like to ask, like, how did we get to build lodges in Israel? How did we get there?
Well, we didn't. What do you mean we? You mean the Masons?
Yeah, basically.
Well, they have lodges everywhere, don't they?
No, there's some countries they do not. Like Egypt, it's outlawed. That's why they kicked Travis Scott and his the Rock Nation campaign. They were supposed to do a performance out there, but it'd be connected to Freemasonry. They wouldn't allow them. There's certain governments around the world that do not allow Freemasonry, by the way.
I did not know that. Egypt does not allow Freemasonry?
No.
I did not know that. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. That's a nice little factoid here today. Next caller, what's your name? Where you're from?
Yeah, this is Albert. I'm calling from Austin, Texas, and I gotta tell you, I am amazed by the silence about this particular case that's before the SCOTUS right now. Just recently, there was a delay that was requested, but this is crazy that nobody on the right is talking about it. The SCOTUS is going to hear a case about taking Second Amendment rights away from pot smokers.
Yeah.
The whole notion that habitual pot smoking is going to make the person who is a gun owner dangerous. You know, and all of you guys should be up in arms about the fact that they're going to take Joe Rogan's guns away. Why is nobody talking about this at all?
Yeah. No, this is a fair point. I did mention it. I don't expect everybody to listen to everything I ever say. I did mention it when I think it was Tuesday. Did you see the story Tuesday about the man who brought guns to the Atlanta airport that they arrested? Did you happen to see that?
I did. They knocked him down after his family turned him in, and they found his rat-a-tat outside in his car.
Yeah. And apparently there was a history of drug use, or maybe specifically marijuana use, or there might have been some marijuana connection. And I saw that and I said, okay, my conspiracy theory, instinct started to kick in.
Already there.
When I saw that, my conspiracy theory instinct started to kick in, and I was like, they have this case ongoing at the Supreme Court, and now they get this supposed pothead with a gun, and it's like, oh, wow, some ammo for the case. Oh, conspiracy theory starts to kick up. But then they just kind of largely ignored it, buried it, didn't become a big story, so that kind of just drowned it out. But yeah, it should be a bigger case. I think the problem is that right-wingers, this is another issue where right-wingers kind of get stuck in this mindset on a certain issue, and then they just can't budge because of, let's say, the culture that surrounds it, maybe, where it's like being against the war on drugs or being against legalization of drugs is somehow not a conservative value. And I would actually argue it is. I would argue if a core tenet of if a core tenet, which we would like to claim, if a core tenet of modern day conservatism or just general conservatism, if your core tenets are freedom and small government, then you should be against the war on drugs, and you should be pro legalizing drugs. But it's like, it's like this taboo that they somehow associate that with promotion of drug abuse. And it's like, no, I'm not promoting drug abuse. I'm promoting sobriety, but I am also a conservative. I'm a free market conservative. So I don't believe the government should tell you you can't smoke a flower that comes from the ground or even snort a thing that somebody makes in a lab. That's between you and God, in my opinion. Now, you start to put other people's lives at risk, now we can have a conversation. But to me, it should be a conservative value to end the war on drugs and to legalize drugs. And if your aim is to get rid of the drug cartels, well, how do you get rid of the drug cartels? You legalize drugs. They've cornered the market. Nobody else can sell the drugs. What do you think happened in these cities where they legalized marijuana? What do you think the people that sold marijuana do now? Do you think they're still selling marijuana? Do you think they can compete with the weed store down the shop now? No, you put them out of business. You want to put the cartels out of business? Legalize drugs. But conservatives are so scared. They're so scared for bold action and bold takes. And they think, I'm just going to rest on my morals. I'm against drugs, so we should have policies that make everybody against drugs. Well, that's not real conservatism. I guess you could argue it's liberalism in a certain degree. But no, you're right. It should be a bigger story. It's outrageous. Look, I don't like the fact that most of these mass shooters, if not all of these mass shooters, are on pharmaceutical drugs. But where's that as a big issue? Oh, no, we're going to make it about marijuana. There's already laws on the books, with drugs and guns. They're already on the books. They're just trying to ratchet it up to the next level. But I think what the end goal here is, because when you go into one of these marijuana shops, you have to show ID and register. In some states, I think you might even need like a card to do it. You might even have to register to get a card to buy marijuana. I think it's all about making a list. That's what I think. I think it's all about registering everybody and then putting you on a list and saying you either can't have a gun or we're going to have basically a gun registry is what it's going to turn into. But you're right. It's not getting near enough attention. And where are all the Second Amendment activists? It seems like Second Amendment activists have just disappeared. Have you noticed that? Where are all the Second Amendment activists? Where are they? Where is the NRA? We've got one here locally, Michael Cargill, who actually just had a victory at the Supreme Court. And then I've mentioned Maj Toure a couple times. He's a big Second Amendment activist. I see him promoting a lot of Second Amendment rights, or let's say the Second Amendment rights. Where? Where are the Second Amendment activists? Where are the majorly funded big Second Amendment activists like the NRA? Silent. Silent. Where are the Second Amendment activists inside the Republican Party? Silent. It's almost like Second Amendment activism is dead. And is that because Republicans are so scared of it now? Because of the mass shootings issue? I don't know. But I'd say you're spot on. It's not getting near enough attention. And if they do decide that if you use marijuana or buy marijuana that you can't possess a firearm, then we got problems, folks. Because it's not going to stop there. And you know, you can hear me saying this, or you can be thinking, oh, well, you know, I don't use marijuana, so it's no problem for me. Well, it's no problem for you now until it's something else. It's no problem for you now until, I don't know, maybe you're in a situation where somebody would normally be carrying a gun, but because he bought marijuana one time, he lost his Second Amendment right, and now he can't help the general public when something happens. So it's crazy how it's not getting much attention. You're right about that. But where are the big Second Amendment activists? Where are they? Why are they so quiet? Next caller, what's your name? Where you from?
Keaton from Arizona.
All right, what's on your mind?
So I'm going to try and describe what I think Trump's personality has become, his mindset. I think, in a sense, Trump has put on the Ring of Mordor because a while ago he said he wants to make it into heaven, but then a little bit ago he said that he doesn't think he's going to make it. So I actually think his conscience is really eating at him. And well, that begs the question why. And I think it's because he basically has put on the Ring of Mordor, and that has morphed American foreign policy into being extremely aggressive and thinking that an extremely aggressive foreign policy is going to translate to a prosperity in the homeland. So we'll see if that's the case.
Well, my concern is you talk about prosperity in the homeland. I'm wondering what is Trump's measuring stick for that? What is Trump's measuring stick for that success score? Because if it's the stock market, then he thinks everything's great. And I'm afraid that's what it is. I'm afraid that Trump's measuring stick is the stock market. But the truth is 1% of America is even in the stock market. And 1% of that 1% is making money in the stock market. So if that's his measuring stick, then he's not, his measurement is extremely inaccurate. So that's my concern. I don't think, though, that that's what's going on with his current personality, let's say, that you talk about him wanting to get into heaven. I think it's more of, you know, he's had near-death experiences. He's got these religious fanatics that are in his ear all the time. And, you know, he lived a playboy billionaire lifestyle. He did. You know, he would womanize and who knows what else he did. I don't think he did anything that's too terribly, bad, let's say. I don't think he's like an Epstein type, but he was friends with Epstein. They hung out in the same circles. So I think it's more of that. I think it's more of he's an older guy. He's had near-death experiences. Maybe he's had to do some evil things as president, but he felt it was necessary. Maybe he feels guilty for some of the things he did in the past, and he's an older guy thinking about it now. He's got these religious fanatics around him all the time, so it's a little heavier now. That's what I see going on. But I think in a weird way, it could end up being a redemption factor. It's kind of like the Trump ego, right? It's like if Trump really has this big ego, which I think we would all agree he does. I don't know who has a bigger ego than Trump. It could actually end up being a good thing. Because if Trump is this egomaniacal person, then he's going to want to leave a legacy. He's going to want to preserve his legacy and have a lasting legacy that's positive. And so if you can get the right information to him and you can get the right vibes, the right frequencies to him about what people are thinking and feeling and saying, then he can kind of adjust to say, hey, in my ego, I need to make sure I'm leaving a legacy that's going to be good for everybody, that's going to be a legacy that I like. And if he doesn't know what's going on, it's going to be a lot harder to do that. So if he's afraid he's not going to get into heaven, then that might cause him to act in a better way. If he's afraid that he's not going to leave a good legacy, that might cause him to act in a better way. And you'd say, well, it's kind of a paradox because we want him to be acting in these ways because he's the president, but he's going to do it for selfish reasons. Whatever. I'm a results-based guy. But I think that's more of what it is. I think he's an old guy. He's had near-death experiences. He's surrounded by these religious fanatics. And he's probably thinking about death. And maybe he's thinking about heaven or the afterlife, maybe for the first time ever. Maybe he's never thought about it before. And he is now. So that's probably a good thing. I'd say that's probably a good thing. Next caller, what's your name? Where you from?
Hi, I'm John Paul. I'm from Texas.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, yes. I was just curious about this libertarian idea that marijuana and the legalization of it and not supporting it. As somebody who's conservative, is it going to play an impact on those of us who do not use some of these substances? I've heard conservatives say this over and over when it comes to different matters, but all these things spill out into the general public when you allow them, and limiting access is beneficial to all of us.
So hold on a second. Can you try to focus this directionally for me to respond? I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. I think I know, but I want to be sure.
Okay. Well, you just, in a previous call, you kind of went on a tirade talking about how we should, conservatives should be okay with the legalization and should support these things. Well, there's certain actions that we shouldn't support at all.
Okay. I got you. So let me ask you a question. Okay, I get it now. All right. So you personally, you do not support. Let's be more general. You personally, you do not support drug use, right? You do not promote drug use. Okay, good. But what about politically? Do you think that the government should make that decision?
Yes, just like on many
Okay,
aspects,
all right, hold on.
use.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you support cheating on your spouse?
No, not at all.
Okay, so you wouldn't promote cheating on your spouse?
Correct.
Do you think the government should get involved in that and arrest you if you do?
Well, they used to. I think that was beneficial.
So you support that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so you're kind of a big government guy. So you like government to handle people's personal business?
Not necessarily, but I do think.
Well, that's what you're saying.
Their role and responsibility is to ensure that the people have an upright system, a moral system, and cheating on your spouse is not moral. If there was penalties for that, wouldn't that be beneficial?
Okay, maybe, but do you want a government to decide that?
Well, here's another example: homosexual marriage. Just like drug use, look at the impact of allowing it to be okay. How has that impacted our society today? Is it a net positive or a net negative?
Now this is a little different because now it's pretty similar. But hold on, if you get into the institution of marriage, then it's a little different. Because marriage can serve a purpose in a civilization, and marriage between a man and a woman, like it's intended, produces children, right? Okay, so that's kind of a different element.
Right.
Now you're getting back and you're saying, do you think you should be punished by the government for having gay sex, for being gay?
Well, I think it should be. I think it'd be a net positive for our society.
I'm not disagreeing. That's not the question. I'm asking if you think the government should be making this decision. That's what I'm asking you.
Well, who else is going to enforce the law?
That's the whole purpose. What do you mean? No. We're not talking about decisions and what we think is good or bad. We're talking about government.
Right.
We're talking about should the government enforce this?
What's the role of government?
To protect our rights. To protect our rights.
And what are those rights?
Well, now we're getting off track. So what? So would you argue then? Well, I think this is a good conversation. So would you argue then that the government, that we should have laws that the government should be able to punish you for sodomy. The government should be able to punish you for smoking marijuana. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, that was the case in this nation at a
I'm saying, do you think that? But is that what you like? You would vote for that?
I would vote for that. Yes,
Okay.
because I think it's a net positive for our society, and I think the rules and rights that we promote need to follow suit with our beliefs. And
so, do you think though? Here's where I get into. I think this is where you and I differ on the philosophy of this. I think that once you start getting government involved in making moral decisions, it's a slippery slope, and now it's all up for interpretation. And now anybody gets to decide.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you, but think of how it's gone the opposite direction. So,
but has it though?
Has the war slope?
But has the war on drugs? But has the war on drugs really stopped drug use?
Well, I mean, if you go back to a lot of this started with the days of prohibition, when the biggest problems that
did that stop alcohol? Did that stop
alcohol?
And did that stop people from drinking?
Continued.
Exactly. So it doesn't even work. So it doesn't even work.
It's not that it doesn't work. It's that
you admitted it doesn't work.
Well, the people cave, just like.
All right. Well, let me ask you this.
Like
this is a great call.
Marijuana.
This is a great call, but
keep going.
This is a great call, but I want to take other calls. So let me ask you this then, as a conclusion. Do you think it would be more effective for any civilization to use culture and social pressure to keep people to do the right things, or do you think it's better for the government to apply that pressure?
Well, I think a mix of both would be beneficial. I appreciate you, Owen, and what you do. But I think a mix of both here. I wanted to say that beforehand. Sorry, I jumped right into the subject. But I think a mix of both would be beneficial when you have a government that deters these things, and also a culture that overall is something that we reject. I think a mix of both can make a society where we all want to live in.
I think that I think we just have a little bit of a philosophical difference here, but I think this is a really good conversation. I think this is a really good debate. I do want to take other callers.
I appreciate you.
And maybe we can have it again. I would say the middle ground for me then, if I was going to say, let's say that I had to reach a compromise with you on this subject, I would say I would want it handled like this. And I don't know, the sodomy thing, that's a little, I don't know what you do with that, but because you're not going to stop people from doing it. But let's say like with the drug issue, if you get caught and you've got some weed or whatever, I don't think you should spend a minute in jail. I don't think any nonviolent offender should ever spend a minute in a cage, in a prison. But let's say there are laws in the books and marijuana is illegal or cocaine is legal or whatever it is. I'd say you can have laws in the books and punishment on the books. And this is why, local culture and connections is so important. But it's like, don't ruin someone like just burn the weed, throw it in the garbage, throw it in the river, whatever, throw the cocaine out, just get rid of it and say, hey, go home. And then if they keep doing it or whatever, then maybe you say, okay, you know what? You're going to spend a night with us. All right. You're going to spend a night. And then the judge says, all right, get out of here, and throws the case. The punishment should fit the crime. And if you're not hurting anybody, then it's kind of like, well, I don't even want to go off on a jag on this because I want to take more calls. That's an interesting conversation. That's an interesting debate. That's productive and good political conversation right there. You don't get much of it. Next caller, what's your name? Where are you from?
Hey, Owen, this is Albert from Pennsylvania.
Fake Albert, what's on your mind?
A whole lot, Owen, a whole lot. Hey, look, man, I just I've been noticing, man, and this isn't really necessarily a dig, it's more of a critique, I guess you could say. You got to turn up the heat, man, because I want more out of you, man. You're kind of like low energy lately. I just want to see more just passion, more fire, more just.
Do you have anything? Is there anything specific that you're referring to?
Mainly the delivery, Owen. I gotta be honest, man, because I don't know if it's just a different vibe because now you're not in the war room anymore, or just what the deal is.
Well, there is a different vibe. Yes, it is definitely a different vibe. But that's just this is more me, I think, than anything. I think you're getting more.
No, I
of
appreciate
me.
that, Owen, because I've been loyal since 2015, and will continue to support you, Owen. But I was just curious as to I think you need to go more on the offensive with some of these guys that are just trying to get into the space and just taking the steak off your plate.
Wait a second. Who though? Who?
That guy, what's his name? Yaval, whatever his name is, the sympathizer for the Israeli sympathizer. Yaval, you've interviewed him.
Ayol Jacoby?
Yeah,
dude, I get it.
Yeah,
I just had a massive confrontation with him in the last 24 hours.
But you need to go harder, man. You need to push this guy's shit in, Owen. Like, seriously, man. This guy's a fucking bitch ass motherfucker, man. Like, I mean, come on.
All right.
I mean,
so this is actually funny for a couple reasons. I had a phone call yesterday, and we're gonna have some new announcements next month as far as the show is concerned. But I had a phone call yesterday, some business calls, handling some business, and I was talking to somebody involved in on the business side. And there's like, oh yeah, how are things going? First you're about to complete 3 weeks. And I was like, well, overall, it's pretty much right where I expected it to be. I don't like doing the stress tests and the pressure tests and having some of the errors on air, but it's just a decision I knew I was going to make. And so I'm just kind of working with it, even though I know it's a little costly. I also know that it's beneficial and, just kind of going through that stuff. And then I said, I said this, and I said, I've turned out to be more controversial than I thought. And when I was first kind of having some of these business calls and we're talking about clients and some of the other stuff I plan on doing in the future, I was actually thinking I'm going to be less controversial. I actually think I'm more controversial, honestly. I think I'm more controversial. And I've gotten more hate now. I get more hate from the right today than I've ever gotten from the left in my entire life. It's like I didn't intend on doing that. And so the guy I was talking to on the phone was like, well, it's funny you say that, because you got to think about the audience. You got to think about, you just got to be smart. You got to be smart, especially when you're running your own business now. And I said this, and he was like, well, because there's a couple more sponsors that are going to be coming on soon. And one of the sponsors was like, I'm actually glad he's more controversial. It's like, I guess they're like you. They're like, no, I'm glad Owen is more controversial now, but I've never heard anybody say I'm less controversial now. So I don't know. Maybe that's you being, maybe that's just you kind of trying to antagonize me. But I will say this. One thing that's very important to me, and I'm good at it, is maintaining positive relationships with people despite having some passionate disagreements. And I would say, maybe a couple examples might be Ayol and Laura Loomer that I get into it pretty rough with. But I have no doubt I could go out right now with Laura and we could be debating something very heated and still clink glasses and break bread and have a laugh and be fine. I don't know Ayol like that, but I would guess it would be the same with him. That's how I operate. I don't take politics personally. I don't take anything in this industry personally. I think that's the best way to do it. And I want to be able to maintain positive relationships, even with the people I disagree with the most. It's very important to me. And I think I've been pretty good at that. Might get harder, but that's where we are. All right, next caller. What's your name? Where are you from?
Hey, Owen, this is Kevin. We spoke a few weeks back.
What's up, Kevin?
I was gonna ask you. I'm over in Peoria. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the trial lately of the Sonia Grayson, the cop that shot the black lady in Springfield, Illinois.
No, it's not really. It's not really making the news.
It has over here, and this happened. They moved this trial up to Peoria, and they got protesters. We got Black Lives Matter flags. It's a potential tinderbox.
There's a huge protest in Minnesota today. Kristi Noem was up there for an event. There's a huge protest outside. I'm guessing they're busing these people in from St. Louis and East St. Louis, right?
I'm not sure. I know it's about 4 miles from me where I'm at now, and it's a potential tinderbox. They're trying to charge him with first-degree murder. He did shoot the lady in the face, and it's the body cam footage is out there.
Yeah, that's the
Look
one
that
where
up.
is that the one where she has the knife?
She had the boiling water in a pan that she tossed at him.
Oh, how long ago was that?
24. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it was June or July of 24.
Yeah, I was going to say that
But
was
we gotta-
that was a bit ago. Yeah, I remember that when it hit the news after it happened and the body cam footage came out and she was throwing the boiling water. You know, here's the problem. And this is the concept that the left has created, and I think the right needs to really change the messaging. Instead of, it's like, hey, we can be pro-police. That doesn't mean police don't make mistakes, but we kind of lose. We don't really, it's like a roadblock with the left on this messaging. And I think instead of, it's not that we don't support the police, okay, but I think the message is the police have rights too, right? You know, a police officer has a right to defend themselves. Just because they're in uniform, that doesn't mean that they don't have a basic human right to defend themselves against an attacker. And so it's just like, it's like if you take the uniform away in some of these circumstances where they drum up a protest for Black Lives Matter outside of a courtroom, it's like if you take the uniform away and somebody's charging at you with a knife or somebody's about to pour boiling water on you and you defend yourself and shoot that person in self-defense, well, then there's not going to be a protest. And I understand that we want to hold police officers to a higher standard, and I understand that they should be trained and be able to handle situations like this better than a layman. But still, at the same time, it's like they have basic instincts, they have basic survival instincts, they still have a right to defend themselves. And it's like when you have the camera footage that shows that's what they're doing, but it doesn't matter. They just want to do these protests, and they think it's all about racism, and they hate the police. And so that's how they're able to drum this stuff up. If it pops off, it'll make the national news. I'm surprised it hasn't, especially if there's funding going into that. But maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's an organic movement. I don't know.
They got it blocked off, and the second floor of the courthouse is absolutely not able to get to. It's a potential tinderbox. I just noticed. I didn't know if you paid attention to that lately or not.
No, I've not seen it anywhere. I've literally not seen it anywhere.
All right. Well, thanks for answering my call, Owen.
All right. Well, that's you're scooping us today, Kevin. A scoop from Peoria, Illinois. Who had that on the bingo card this week? That's what we got. Hey, how about some good news heading into the weekend? How about some good news? It's a little heartwarming here. The compliment stand. A young kid decided, instead of doing a lemonade stand, this 9-year-old did a self-esteem stand where people could come up and get a compliment. And it was so popular, it got national attention. He was reading a book where somebody set up an insult stand, and he decided to do the opposite and do a compliment stand. How about that, young kid? What's a compliment worth to somebody? Maybe more than you'd expect, actually. Maybe compliment somebody today. Might make their day. All right, next caller. What's your name? Nope, gone. Thank you for your commentary on the matter. Really added a lot of value today. Did you guys see this story of a high school where they had the boys still playing against girls? Yeah. So they had the boys playing against girls in this college volleyball match. And there was a protest group there to protest. They were pro, keep women's sports women. And there's a dude competing out there. And so this is incredible. So here's the shot as they're taking a picture of this group down here. All right, here's the group that's keep female sports female, protect girls sports. So all these young college girls here, I think some of them might be in high school. They're out there saying, no, we want to save girls sports. We don't want boys competing against girls. All right, they're all smiling, they're all happy. Little political activism there. It's all good. And then behind them are these screaming banshees saying F you, flipping them off, booing and hissing. Man, there's your juxtaposition right there. It's like, and if you, could you even imagine this? Could you even imagine this with like first, second, or even third wave feminism? Women, feminists supporting boys in girls' sports? What a Twilight Zone thing. All right, next caller. What's your name? Where you're from?
Owl Killer, calling from Virginia.
What's up, Owl Killer?
Hey, long time since we chatted last. Hey, I'm glad to see you got your new show off the ground. I do want to say something, though. I kind of think that it doesn't matter who wins at a certain point, whether it's right or left. And why I'm saying that is because when you saw all those tech geeks at the White House during the inauguration, they were going to build their system regardless of who was in power. But it's just the justification for it is going to be different. Where the left was going to use the AI control grid to take on the right, and the right is using it. The right is going to use it, to take on their political enemy. So I almost think it does not matter. We're just being used at this point as pawns to be fighting with each other. And at the end of the day, it's the money. It's literally the money. As long as the Federal Reserve exists, and it's almost like the first thing like when you start becoming aware of things and you understand the fractional reserve banking, that's the big key. If that would free up our foreign policy, that would free up a lot of things. And if Trump would just get out there and tell the American people straight up what's really going on, we may have a rough decade or two, but with the technology that's available today, we could be flourishing within like 10 years.
Yeah, I think it'd be less. I think it'd be 5.
That's what I'm saying. Like 10 years.
I think America could once again become the leaders of the free world, and I mean in every aspect of that sense. I think we could do it by 2030. I really do. But you have to want to. You have to actually desire to. And what you just said about, no matter who you elect, you get the same result. I think a lot of people agree with that. And that's why it's like now where I'm at, I feel like I'm back in 2015 and 2016. The field is different, but it's the same game. It's like in 2015 and 2016, we were ramming heads with the right. We were ramming heads with the establishment right, Con Inc., the military-industrial complex, all this stuff. We were ramming heads with them to get Trump in, right? The same people now that control the Trump administration and dictate MAGA, they were all anti-Trump and trying to keep Trump from even getting in. So it's like we already went through this. It's like a cycle. It's like we already went through ramming heads with the corrupt establishment right, and we thought we won to the point of reform in at least some semblance of a permanent way, and it turned out no, they never changed. They just put on a mask, co-opted the movement, and now they're back to the same neocon corrupt establishment right that they were before. So it's like you try to say this stuff to them and they reject you. You try to explain this stuff to them and they attack you and they insult you, and even though you're right. And then you try to get it, so it's like, okay, fine, well, you think it's great everything Trump is doing here, all right? And okay, AI grid and all this stuff, and all right, it's all great until what happens when the left gets in control and they use it against you. And then it's, whoa. It's like you realize that you're going to put the left back in control because you haven't reformed. So you're just going through the exact same thing, and whatever Trump builds is going to be used against you, just like FISA. Just like Bush and FISA that they complain about. And it's the same cycle. It was the same people warning about FISA and the Patriot Act then that the same corrupt right-wing establishment said was good, and now they're complaining because it was used against them. And the next one is going to be AI, and they're going to say, oh, Trump's going to use it, it's going to be good, and then it's going to use it against them, and then they're going to bitch and complain in 4 years. So it's just like it's the same cycle with these people. Now, even though we're going through the same cycle with these people, I do think with each cycle we gain a little bit more and they lose a little bit more. But it's not near what I thought. I'll be honest. I thought I thought we accomplished way more reform on the right. Philosophically, politically, I thought we accomplished way more reform, and it turns out it was like maybe 10% of what I thought. I thought we had crossed a threshold for like permanent reform of the Republican Party, but now it looks like no. It looks like a number, a percentage that's not enough to make a permanent change. So that's why we'll see what happens in the midterms in 2028. But it's going to be the same thing. Republicans are going to learn the hard way, and then they're going to scratch their heads and wonder what went wrong, and then eventually admit we were right, and then let us take control until they want control and then kick us out. It's the same political cycle, Owl Killer. And I'm glad you called in today. It's good to hear from you for the first time here on the Owen Report. Thank you for calling in. All right, it is Friday. You got any fun plans this weekend? I hope so. Hope you got something fun planned. I don't know what the weather is like wherever you're at. It's very nice in Austin, though. The sun sets earlier and earlier every night. I can't stand it. It's criminal. It's criminal that when I get out of this studio, it's going to be dark. It's criminal that it's going to be pitch black by 7 o'clock. It's truly criminal what they do to us. Really, we should be probably moving the clocks forward. But they're going to move them back. They're going to make us even more miserable with this darkness. But you know what? I'm not being negative. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you got something fun planned this weekend. Spend some time with friends and family. Enjoy yourself. Have a great weekend. Maybe enjoy some local entertainment, some sports, some cuisine, whatever it is. I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you had a great week along with me as well. Please remember to support the sponsors of today's show, Blackout Coffee. BlackoutCoffee.com/Owen and My Patriot Supply, MyPatriotSupply.com/Owen. We thank the sponsors of today's show. Have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. That does it for today's Owen Report. God bless and Godspeed. Oh, and get all apparel at owenschroyer.store. If you like the shirt I'm wearing today, owenschroyer.store. We got new apparel coming up. We just launched new apparel as well, owenschroyer.store.